Hello, hello, hello. How y'all doing tonight? The Hallows Eve. If you into that, I'm not into it, but if you are, then hope you're happy. Having a good time. I know I saw was out tonight and saw a lot of places they doing their trick or treating and Halloween parties and all that. So I just hope everybody be safe. If you know I don't believe in it, I just know people have the right to do it. So I just hope everybody be safe and have a good, safe night when they're out there celebrating the Day of the Dead. I appreciate y'all being here tonight. What up? What up, Ashley? Glad you're here. Yeah, I just replied to your message. I just got to my phone. I saw you had messaged me on Facebook. But yeah, I didn't go last night. I apologize for being the night and this late. But what happened was I told y'all the kids' basketball season was gonna be crazy, and the game they were supposed to play Tuesday got canceled, and they moved it to Friday night. So I had to go. The only time I'm gonna have time to do this lesson, the second part of this lesson, was tonight. So that's why I moved it to tonight. Then of course I was doing my soul winning earlier, so I had it at 8 to make sure I had time to get out and do my soul winning and get back in here as well. So I appreciate y'all being here. I don't know if we're gonna get a lot of people in here tonight with it being a Saturday night. Hey Felicia, how you doing? Saw you at Walmart the other day. I started to run up on you and be like, paka, 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 paka. But I didn't do it. You know what I'm saying? That was the old me. But I'm glad you're here, and I hope y'all having a good night as well. So I appreciate y'all for being here. I'm just gonna get my stuff on the charge and get my charge set up in case my phone go dead. I'm gonna jump on into it because we're gonna have to have a little bit of a review from the last lesson. I hope y'all caught the last lesson I did. It was last Friday, and of course the lesson tonight is having a close relationship with the Lord is intentional. That is something that you have to do intentionally. And we talked about last week, there are some decisions that you have to make if you're going to have that close relationship with the Lord. And people have to realize that it's work. If you're going to have a close relationship with the Lord and get all the blessings that the Bible talks about that the Lord has promised to give us, there is some work that has to be done. There's some work that we have to do to have that close relationship with the Lord. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about. And of course, tonight is part 2. So if you got your Bibles, we're going to be over in the book of Joshua. The last chapter of Joshua, chapter 24 is what we're going to be in tonight. Let me get my phone charger and then we should be ready to roll. Just in case. All right, so I got that and everything is set up. So like I said, I usually wait a few minutes for everybody to come in, especially with it being a different night than normal, but I'm gonna go ahead and jump into it. The first few minutes gonna be the review from last week anyway, because it rolls into this lesson. So of course, again, the title of the lesson is a close relationship with the Lord is intentional. And what we talked about, like I said, was we were just talking about how you have to work to have a close relationship with the Lord. Of course, getting saved is easy. That's the easy part. And that's what I always tell people when I lead them to the Lord. Getting saved is the easy part. But after you get saved, then you got to work on having that close relationship. That's where the hard part comes in. That's where the work comes in. And, and it's some decisions that you have to make if you're going to do that work and have that close relationship. So in the lesson last week, we went over, there was 11 decisions that I talked about that you have to make if you want to have that close relationship with the Lord. And of course, that covered Joshua chapter 23. And of course, the reason why I wanted to get into this is because this is where we at. This is Joshua's these are the final words of Joshua, the last moments of his life. And, he's done a lot for the Lord in his life. He's led Israel into the promised land, got all kind of victories, and he did everything to make sure he stayed faithful to the Lord and to serve the Lord with his whole heart. And the Lord blessed him, and he was prosperous because of it. So he's getting ready to pass on to the next, go to eternal life. And he's just kind of giving Israel this warning and kind of guiding them down, giving them the wisdom they need so they can continue to have this prosperity that they've been having since he's been their leader. Sorry about I just got my forehead shaved yesterday, y'all. So, my head shaved yesterday. So sorry about the shiny head. I hope it ain't blinding you. But some of the points I wanted to go back over the points that we went over, like I said, in the review that we went over last week, because like I said, some of them gonna come back to play tonight in tonight's lesson as well. And when I originally gonna do this lesson, it was just gonna be off 24, but then I saw 23 had some valuable points in it as well, and then 24 has some more points. So altogether, I think I got about 24 decisions that you have to make if you want to have that close relationship with the Lord. So number one from last week, we said you have to decide whether you're going to have peace or chaos. You have to decide whether you will have peace or chaos in your life. And you know, the verses that we was dealing with was talking about how rest from the Lord, from the world comes from the Lord. You know, and it was just talking about how after so many years of the wars and things of that nature, that you know that rest that He finally gave them rest, and that rest that He gave them came from the Lord. So number one, first decision you have to make is you have to decide whether you're going to have that peace or chaos in your life, and you make that decision by deciding whether or not you're going to serve the Lord or not, or have that close relationship with the Lord or not, and that's what determines whether your life will be chaotic or peaceful. Number two. You have to, the number two from last week, you have to decide if you will let the Lord fight your battles. Of course, if you have a close relationship with the Lord and you're doing the Lord's work, then He's going to fight your battles for you. You don't have to fight those battles on your own, but He'll only fight your battles if you allow Him to fight your battles. So that's a decision you have to make. If you have a close relationship with the Lord and you're doing God's work, then there's going to be stuff that's going to happen. That's why I always try to let people know you're going to have problems. Things are going to pop up, but you got to decide whether or not you're going to let the Lord fight your battles or not. So that was number two from last week. Number three from last week, you have to decide for yourself if the word of the Lord is the truth. And again, that's something I've always preached on here. You know, you got to decide whether the word of the Lord is truth. You know, there's all kind of information out there that say the Bible is fake and it was written by men. There's all kind of information that say it is real and it was written by God. But that's a decision that each individual has to make on themselves, because if you don't believe the word of the Lord is truth, it's going to be hard for you to follow the word or put your faith and trust in what this word is saying if you don't really believe in your heart that it's the truth. So that's an important decision that you have to make. You have to decide if the word of the Lord is truth. And all these decisions, of course, we talk about all these decisions because these are all decisions that you have to make that lead to you having a close relationship with the Lord. Number four from last week. You have to decide not only if the word of the Lord is truth, you have to decide if you're going to follow the word or not. You know, you have to decide if you're going to follow. Like I said, if you don't believe it's truth, it's going to be hard for you to follow it. But, you know, if you do make a decision that it is true, then you also have to make a decision that, okay, I believe this is true, then I'm going to follow it and do what it tells me to do. So that's another decision that you have to make. You have to decide if you're going to follow the word or not. First, decide if it's true. And if it is true, you got to decide whether or not you're going to follow it. And of course, we talked about how Jesus said twice, if you follow my commands, you are my friend. And if you follow my commands, then you love me. So you being obedient and following God's command is what determines whether you're following you being obedient and following God's command determines if you're really a friend of God and if you really love the Lord. Number five from last week, you have to decide if you will have a close relationship with the Lord or the world. And again, these are all decisions that you make. Is, you know, you get to everything that you do on a daily basis really determine whether your relationship is with the world or whether your relationship with the Lord. You know, when you're able to make the sacrifices and not do the things you know you're not supposed to be doing and do the things you're supposed to be doing, you're deciding to have a close relationship with the Lord. But if you're always doing stuff you know you're not supposed to be doing, and you're always doing things to please yourself or to please your friends or to make sure the world is happy, then your relationship is with the world. So again, that's a decision you have to make. You have to make a decision whether you want to have a close relationship with the Lord or with the world. Number six from last week, you have to decide if you're going to be faithful no matter what. You know, that's a decision you have to make, because again, if you serve the Lord, and a lot of people get a misconcept that, oh, I'm with the Lord, I done got saved, everything should be good and hunky-dory, and that's not the case. A lot of times when you get into doing work for the Lord and serving the Lord, that's when things start to go wrong, because the world wants to pull you away from the Lord. So you have to make that decision. You have to decide if you're going to be faithful to the Lord no matter what. And I talked about, you know, a lot of people, it's easy to praise the Lord when you're up on the mountaintop. But you got to be able to praise the Lord also when you're down in the valley. And that's what shows if you're really faithful or not. A lot of people praise when they're on the mountaintop, but when they get down in that valley, the first thing they usually do is run away from the Lord. So you have to decide that no matter what happens to you, whether you're on the mountaintop or you down in the valley, that you're still going to praise the Lord. All right, number 7, you have to decide if you want your enemies to be able to stand against you. No, you decide that. And again, by having a close relationship with the Lord and doing what the Lord wants you to do, they won't be able to stand against you. And we saw how Israel got all these victories over all these nations. When Joshua went in, he was one nation. The Israelites was one nation, but they beat 31 different kings, 31 different nations. And the reason why they had that victory is because their enemies couldn't stand before them, because they had a close relationship with the Lord and they was doing what the Lord wanted them to do. So you have to decide if you want your enemies to be able to stand against you or not. Because, of course, over in Romans 8:31, it says, if God is for me, then who can be against me? So, again, if you give God for you, you have that close relationship with the Lord, and the Lord is really for you, then nobody will be able to really be against you. Number 8 from last week, you have to decide if you are going to love the Lord. That's a decision you have to make. You have to decide if you're going to love the Lord or not. You know what I'm saying? Everybody have to make that decision for themselves. What's going on, Daniel? Glad you're here, man. I hope everything is going good for you guys. I'm glad you're here. I appreciate you being here tonight. But again, you have to decide whether you're going to love the Lord or not. That's a decision that each individual has to make. It's one thing to know of the Lord, but it's another to truly love the Lord. One of the missions, we had our missions conference this week, and one of the lessons that the guy brought, he was like, talking about how people really don't know the Lord. They really don't love the Lord. You have to really love the Lord. The only way you're going to really know the Lord is if you love the Lord. Because if you love the Lord, you'll spend the time doing the things that you need to do to really get to know him. So again, that's a decision that you have to make. These are all decisions you have to make. Number 9, you have to decide if your prosperity is going to continue or is going to waste away. And Joshua was telling them, hey, when we came into this land, God gave us this land. He, he did all these mighty things and took us through all these battles and brought us to this land and gave us this land. But, if you turn your heart away from him, then he's going to take it back. So again, if you following the Lord and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, the Lord is going to bless you. But the moment you get out of line and you start doing something you're not supposed to be doing, just like he bless you, he will take the stuff away as well. So you decide, you have to decide if you're going to want your prosperity to continue or waste away. And the way it's going to continue if you continue a relationship with the Lord, but it'll waste away if you turn your back on the Lord. And that's actually going to come up again tonight as well. Number 10, you have to decide if you will receive the Lord's grace or the Lord's the world's wrath. You know what I'm saying? I said the Lord's grace or the world's wrath, because when you get out of a lot of time, what happened is a lot of people think, no, the Lord is picking on me because I went away from him. He's forcing me. No, he's not forcing you to do anything. When you get away from the Lord and you start living for yourself and doing the things you want to do instead of worshiping the Lord, what happens is he just take that grace off of you that he had on you, the hand of protection that he had on you. He takes that hand of protection away from you. And that's when he takes the hand of protection away from you. That's when the world steps in and you feel that wrath and all those problems and things that's going on. That's because of the wrath of the world, not the wrath of the Lord. The Lord just took his hands from off of you, and he's no longer covering you in that grace, and that's why the wrath of the world is able to touch you now. And then number 11, which was the last one from last week, you have to decide whether or not you are going to serve the Lord or yourself. Again, that is a decision that you have to make. You have to decide whether or not you're going to serve the Lord. And of course, I talked about a little bit in 24 where Joshua made that decision, and it's going to actually come up tonight because we're going to go through 24. But that's a decision that you have to make. You have to make a decision, not only, like I said, not only just accept the Lord. A lot of people always make the decision to get saved and accept Jesus Christ as Savior, but they don't make the decision that they need to make to actually serve him. So again, you have to make a decision if you're going to serve the Lord or you're going to serve yourself. So those were the 11 decisions that we went through in the first lesson. And if you did not catch that first lesson, please go back and watch it. I did it last Friday, and it's still on my page. And of course, it's called A Close Relationship with God is Intentional, Part 1. Please go back there and watch that, and it'll really help you out. I think it'll definitely help you out. And this lesson is going to be a continuation of that lesson. Of course, it's going to be just a continuation of this of that lesson. And I found about 12 or 13 more decisions that has to be made, that you have to make in order to have a close relationship with the Lord. So I'm going to go ahead and pray, and then we're going to jump into it. Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, thank you so much for watching over us today. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to come here tonight. Thank you for the ones that's here, Lord. I know it's a late Saturday night, so I don't expect a big turnout, Lord, but I do know that people can watch it later on, and some often do. And I wanted to just be able to present this lesson. I didn't want this whole week to go by without presenting the lesson, Lord. And I wanted to present that tonight. So I thank you for giving me this opportunity to do so and letting everything work out so I can be here. I thank you for letting us get to go out today. Didn't get to lead nobody to you, but we did have some good conversations. And hopefully we had some people that said they'll look me up on here. And hopefully they'll be able to look up the videos, Lord, and use them to build a relationship with you. But I just thank you for all that you do for us. Thank you for blessing us and guiding us. I thank you for giving me this lesson about having that close relationship with you, Lord. And I just thank you so much for the faithful ones that will be here tonight to listen to this lesson. And I pray that you just watch over me as I go through this lesson, Lord. Let your spirit shine down upon me and work through me, Lord, so I can bring out these truths that's here tonight and just give the people the wisdom they need so they can have that close relationship with you. And I pray you let your spirit work on them to open their hearts and their minds and their eyes up and see that if there's things that they're doing that they're not supposed to be doing, or the things they're doing, decisions that they're making that's not allowing them to have that close relationship, I pray you just give them the want to make the right decision to have that close relationship and help them see how important this is through these words and this lesson that we're discussing here tonight. We just thank you so much for watching over us. Thank you for blessing us and guiding us. And just thank you for giving us the opportunity to go through your word once again. We love you and thank you for all you've done and given. And we say this prayer in your wonderful Son, Jesus' name. Amen. All right, let's see. Oh, yeah, he was. I just saw your comment, Ashley. Yes, he was. I love the way he did. And I mean, I wish I could have honestly came and got y'all every night, but I just didn't have the time to do it. But I am glad I got y'all got to see him that last night. That was pretty awesome. All right. So, so again, we were talking about, and of course, what spawned this lesson. If you guys missed the lesson last week, it was just, I got an email from my company and they basically try to kind of force us to take the vaccine kind of thing. And, and it just really hit me that it's real, the revelation and the thing the revelation is talked about and the one world government and socialism that they are pushing, like this stuff is happening, you know what I'm saying? And it seemed like it was just far off, but now it seems like it's closer than ever. And, and it's just, and it can be scary. And again, not in the sense of fear, like, oh, I'm afraid, shaking my boots and losing my mind because I don't know what to do. But it is scary because if you really understand the word of God, you understand what's about to happen. You understand what's coming over the horizon. And so, and that's why I want to do this lesson to help people understand, like, a lot of people, they're going out, and I know people that's doing it, they're going out and they stocking up on guns and ammunition and food and all that stuff. But the best thing to do to prepare for what's coming up is to have that close relationship with the Lord. And that's why I want to do this lesson, because this is what Joshua was telling me. Like, look, we basically saying, look, we've been having this close relationship with the Lord, and that's why we getting all these victories. He's actually going to talk about it tonight. He said, so make sure that after I'm gone, that y'all continue down this path so you continue to have the victories and continue to have that close relationship. That's the only way you're going to be successful, be able to take over this land and be able to really inherit the blessings that God has for you. And he's basically getting them prepared for him being gone. So if you got your Bibles, open up to Joshua chapter 24, and we're going to start right there. And since this is part 2, I'm going to keep on with the numbers I already got. So we stopped at 11 in the 23. So tonight's first point is not going to be 1, it's going to be 12. But of course, I always like to tell you, I'm reading out the New Living Translation. And of course, I read out the New Living Translation because it's for my ministry. It's for the lost sheep. And I'm for people that may be not educated, maybe haven't spent a lot of time in their Bible and things of that nature. And I just want to be able to make sure they completely understand what's being taught. So that's why I read out the New Living Translation. But I am a King James believer. And I read both versions. If I see something that I feel been misinterpreted, or I just don't like the way they present it, I always read out the King James Version. But tonight, I think they're pretty close hand in hand. I don't see anywhere where we need to read out the King James. So we're gonna start off in Joshua chapter 20. Like I said, it's the last few moments of Joshua's life. He's actually gonna be dead at the end of this chapter, and he's getting ready to go through that door. But before he go, he want to make sure that the nation that he's been leading and he's been putting his all to bring to the Lord, he want to make sure they have the tools they need, the knowledge they need, and make the right decisions so they can continue to serve the Lord, so this prosperity can continue. So in verse 20, chapter 21, verse he said, then Joshua summoned all the people of Israel to Shechem, along with their elders, the leaders, the judges, and the officers. So they came and presented themselves to God. So number 12, this is going to be our first point. Our first point and number 12, first point of the night, but number 12 in the lesson is this. You have to decide if you're going to do your part to bring the people in your world to the Lord. I'm sorry, let me read that again. You're going to have to decide if you are going to do your part to bring the people in your world to the Lord. Because who was Joshua talking about? All these people that he gathered together, who were these? These were the people that was in his world. These were the people that he was in charge of. He had been the leader of the nation of Israel for all these last few years of his life. So he's getting ready to go, and he wanted to make sure that they understand that, hey, you need to come to the Lord. And we have to do the same thing. You know, if y'all read this, y'all heard me talk about it all the time, soul winning. Basically what he's talking about here, you have to be the one to decide if people are going to get the word of God, and people in your world are going to get the word of God. And you do that by soul winning. How do you get the word to those people? You go soul winning. That's why we were so late tonight. And instead of starting at 7, what I normally started, I started at 8 because I was out soul winning. Y'all know Saturday is my day. And really, I didn't even know I was going to get to do this lesson tonight, but that's why I put the announcement on Facebook so late. I wanted to make sure that I was going to have the time to do it, which I did. Everything worked out, but I was out soul winning. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes I get into, when I be out soul winning, I get to lead some out to the Lord, or a good conversation to go, and I'll be gone for a while. So I never know what I'm gonna come across. But like I said, I had some good visits tonight, but I didn't get to lead anybody to the Lord. But I did go out, and the reason why I go out every Saturday, the reason why I go out and knock on them doors, even though sometimes, especially now, it's getting cold, it's gonna be, it can be unbearable. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you go out there and you don't really think you see results, and you're just going out and knocking on doors, but you're doing God's work. You're going out there and you're doing your part to get the word, bring people to the Lord. And we all have to do that. And that's what Joshua was doing. Again, he's getting ready to die. So he gathered everybody together. And you know what I'm saying? And made his one last ditch effort, so to speak, to make sure he got the people that was in this world to the Lord. And we have to do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? All my people, and I know Ashley, you on here with me, you've actually went out soul winning with me a few times, and that's awesome. But I tell people all the time, man, you got to get the word to people. That's why I keep tracks in my pocket. Anybody that's ever been with me anywhere, know I always keep tracks in my pocket. And whenever we stop somewhere, whenever I stop in a restaurant, I leave them when I go to the restroom, I leave them on the stalls. Just in case somebody walk up, and somebody actually can do it. I don't know if y'all remember, I had a story where that actually happened to me one time. I was went into my granddaughter's birthday party down in Nashville, and it was in a little park, and I went and used the restroom, and like I always do, I always leave a track, and whatever stall I use, I leave a track. And a few minutes later, my son's girlfriend, because they're not married, his girlfriend's mom's boyfriend went to use the restroom, I guess. And then I didn't know this, but me and him got to talking, and it turns out he was unsaved. And, he heard I was a preacher or whatever, so we got to talking. And, he said, we got to talking, and he said he was unsaved, and I told him how I was a preacher, and I had this lost sheep ministry, and I would try to help people get to the Lord. He said, oh, is this you? And what he did, he pulled out the track that I had left in the bathroom. And he said, man, I've been thinking about the Lord and getting saved, and I saw this was here. I thought it was weird, so I figured I'd take it. And I'm like, man, he's like, I'll go put another. No. I said, keep it. And I got plenty of them. I go put another one in there. But that's exactly why I leave those behind. And I don't know if he got saved or not. I haven't seen him since then. But, you know what I'm saying, there's a possibility he can get saved off of that. So what was I doing? I was doing my part. That's all I can do. And that's what you got to understand. That's all you can do. You can do your part. When you see this world falling apart like it is now, all you can do is keep doing your part. That's why, so I could have easily been like, man, it's Saturday night. I'd rather just be relaxing. And, because it's already been a busy Saturday. I did a Bible study with my kids earlier. I went soul winning for like an hour or so. And now I'm preaching. So I could have easily been like, man, you know what? I ain't got time for this tonight. I'll just do my lesson next week. No, you know what I'm saying? This is me doing my part. I'm doing these lessons. This is me doing my part. And that's what you got to understand. We see what's going on in this world, you know what I'm saying? If you look at it as a whole, all the problems, you got the vaccines and the soldiers and all that, man, it's too much. It's overwhelming. You know what I'm saying? It's overwhelming, and you would drive yourself crazy worrying about it, trying to fix it on your own, and it's not for you to fix. But there is something that you can do. You can take the word of God, because that's what's going to fix this. It's not going to be our government. It's not going to be us getting Biden out of office and putting Trump back in. That's not going to solve anything. It's not going to be, it's going to be us getting the word of God back into the hearts of the people. My preacher was telling us, Oh, that's cool. I'm glad I didn't know that. Actually, see how God work things out. So I'm glad you're here too, because you're the only one in here with me right now. I know this might be a little late for Sister Rhonda, because she, we got a church tomorrow and everything. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's so important to just do your part. And that's why, like I said, that's why I do this. I do this to do my part. This is my little part. That's all I can do. I can't fight all these problems, you know what I'm saying? Because I tell people all the time, the only way, oh yeah, that's why I was going, there was a poll that was taken, I think it was this year, and my preacher kind of mentioned it, and he said, this is the first time they took a poll, and it said over 50% of people no longer go to church. 50% of the United States population no longer attends church. You know what I'm saying? So a majority of people in this country no longer goes to church, and this is the first time it didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? So the word of God will really be coming more, and you can see it obviously from the shows that's popular, the kind of people the entertainment we put our time and energy in. You can see that we're getting away from God, and we're becoming more of a godless nation. You know what I'm saying? And it's coming. So if you want to do your part, the way you doing your part is by getting the word to the people in your world. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I do these Facebook, and yes, Facebook Live, it can possibly go to the whole world, but I usually have a little group of people that I usually preach to. So these are the people in my world. I'm doing my part. You know what I'm saying? Whether the video go viral and all that ain't on me. That's on God putting it in the right place at the right time for it to do all that. But I'm doing my part by putting the video out. So that's what we have to do, and that's what Joshua's doing on his diet. That's getting to teach. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. They let you teach the kids. Oh man, I feel sorry for them kids. I'm just playing. I know you'll do good because you have a good heart, and I know you'll do good teaching them kids what they need to know. So that's awesome. I'll be definitely praying for you. But number 12, like I said, you have to decide if you're going to do your part to bring the people in your world to the Lord. Soul winning is vital. Soul winning is vital. Making sure you tell everybody that you come in contact. I try my best to make sure that everyone I come across, I ask about their salvation or at least give them a track. I try my best, and I'm not at 100%. Sometimes I let some slip through the cracks, or just situations work out where I thought I'd be able to say something to them later because and it didn't end up working out. So it don't happen, but I do my best. It's not I put it like this. It's not by not because of a lack of effort. I do my best to get the gospel to everybody that I come across, and that's all you can really do. And if you want to have a close relationship with God, you would do the same thing. Make that decision to make sure. And that's why I made the decision. That's why I go out soul winning every Saturday. That's why I take tracks in my pocket, because I made the decision that everybody I come across, everyone I talk to, everyone that God gives me responsibility for, I'm going to do my best to make sure they have the gospel. And we have to all do that. So if you want to have a close relationship with the Lord, make sure you soul winning. Make sure you're telling other people about the Lord. So then in the next verse 2, he says, so Joshua said to the people, so he gathered everybody together. So again, these are all the people that are in his world. He gathered everybody together that was in his world, and he's about to make this last proclamation before he passed on. So it said, Joshua said to the people, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Your ancestors, including Terah, the father of Abraham, and Nahor, lived beyond the Euphrates River, and they worship other gods. But look, he said, and live beyond the Euphrates River, and they worship other gods. So that's actually a reference back to number 11. I wrote down here the reference number 11. So they had made the decision before the Lord came to their life, they were serving other gods. And in reference number 11, you have to decide whether or not you're going to serve the Lord or yourself. So he was basically saying, hey, look, they were serving themselves at that time. But then he said, but I took your ancestor Abraham from the land beyond the Euphrates and led him into the land of Canaan. So number 13 for tonight is going to be this. This is another important, vital decision that you have to make if you're going to have a close relationship with the Lord. You have to decide if you're going to follow God's will or not. There's a decision that you have to make. You have to decide if you're going to follow God's will or not. And the reason why I say that, because God's will is not always pleasant. That's why y'all notice that y'all that know me know my life verse is Romans 8:28. It says, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love the Lord, to them who are the called according to to them that love. I always get that messed up. It don't matter, but it do matter. But to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. You know what I'm saying? So you got to understand, you have to decide you're going to follow God's will, because following God's will is not going to always keep you in your comfort zone. And that's why a lot of people don't follow God's will because it takes them out of their comfort zone. And you got to get out of the comfort zone if you're going to make the decision that you're going to follow God's will, because you're not going to always go where you don't want to go. You're not going to always have the things that you want to have. You know what I'm saying? God's will can be anything. You know what I'm saying? It can be the loss of your job. It can be the loss of life, of one of your loved ones. You know, I know people that have had lost kids, lost family, and because of that, it got out of God's will. Matter of fact, one of my brothers that I look up to now, you know what I'm saying? He was in that situation where God's will was rough on him, and he wouldn't mind me telling the story because it's part of his testimony. But this guy, he was married. He had a wife, I believe it's 2 or 3 kids. I know it was multiple kids. I think it was 2 or 3. I think it was 2, but it might have been 3. But one day his wife had told her, "Hey, honey, we about to go to the store. Would you like to go with us?" And he had some work to do. He said, "No, I'm not going to do this work." He said, "I got this work to do. Y'all go ahead, and I'll just catch y'all when y'all get back home." So his wife and kids left. And about 20, 30 minutes later, he got a knock on the door. He's like, "Who was that?" He went out there, and it was the sheriff. And he's like, "Hey, is this blah blah? Is this your wife?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, there was an accident, and your wife and kids are all dead. Neither one of them survived." You know what I'm saying? So could you imagine that? And of course, when that happened, man, he got out of the will of God. There goes Sister Rhonda. I ain't think you're gonna join us tonight. I thought you'd be in bed by now, Sister Rhonda. I'm glad you're here. I was telling Ashley, like, might just be us 2 tonight. So I appreciate you being here. I try to get out of here as soon as possible, but I ain't making you no promises. But I was just talking about Brother Terry and God's will. So again, that's what happened. He get this knock on the door, and the officers tell him that his wife and kids are gone, and because of that, he stopped going to church. He was just like, "Man, forget this God stuff." And I think he was out of the church for like 20 some years until one day he drives trucks. And he was getting ready to leave, and his new wife was telling him, like, "Hey, we need to start going to church." And it was a church in a specific place by where he lived at. And I think it was like a Methodist church or something. And he said, "When that becomes a Baptist church, then I go to church." And he left, went on the road for 3 weeks. And when he came back, it was a Baptist church. So it was a Sunday morning when he came back and he saw it. So he said he pulled his truck into the parking lot, walked straight into the church, went down to the altar in the middle of the pastor's sermon. And he just got down on his knees and started praying to the Lord. And until gave his Lord his life, and now one of the most phenomenal soul winners. I mean, I envy the guy, but man, I really look up to him. He has some stories, and he's done a mighty work for the Lord. But guess what? For 20 years, he was out of God's will. So imagine how he had stayed faithful that whole time, the amount of work he could have done. And I think he's led over 10,000 to the Lord so far since he's been back in the work of the Lord. But think of all those years where he wasn't doing God's work. You know what I'm saying? So, but you know what I'm saying? Him losing his wife and family was all part of God's will. And you got to be accepted if you're going to have that close relationship with God. But like I said, God will take some things from you. He will put you in a position where you're not comfortable with. He will put you in a position that you're not comfortable with, and he will put you in a position somewhere you don't want to be. He did that for me. He put me in, and I'm not saying I am now, but when I first found out I had to move here, I was not happy about it. I mean, I'm a city boy. I've always been in the city and wanted to stay a city boy. And I found out I had to move here to this little small town. I had no clue what to expect, but I followed God's will, and he brought me to where I was at, and I'm so glad I did. So I'm so glad I did. I'm glad I didn't run from it, and man, it has been a blessing. Exactly, he stirred up the nest. So, and that's one of the lessons. I'm glad you brought it up. That's one of the lessons we went over doing the missions conference this week. So that's what happened. God will stir up that nest, and if he's calling you to be somewhere and you won't go, that's what he'll do. He'll stir up that nest, and he'll make you uncomfortable and get you to a point where you have to go. So number 13, the second point of the night is you have to decide if you're going to follow God's will or not. That is a decision that you have to make. And that's what happened here with Abraham, because you got to understand, it said, "I took your ancestor Abraham from the land beyond the Euphrates and led him to the land of Canaan." And you got to understand, when that happened, when he called Abraham had no clue. You know what I'm saying? Abraham was over in this land that he had been born in, had been with his family, and God just told him, he said, God told him, like, "Hey, I want you to go somewhere, and I'm going to show you where I want you to go when you get there." So he didn't even have no clue where he was going or any of that. He just said, "This is the place I want you." He said, "I want you to go to this place and just pack up all your stuff, take your family and leave. And I'm going to show you where I want you to go when you get there." You know what I'm saying? So Abraham had to have a lot of faith to do that, but he knew it was the will of God for him to go to wherever God was putting him to, so he went. You know what I'm saying? So you have to decide if you're going to follow God's will or not. That's a decision you want to make. You have to make if you're going to have that close relationship with God. And the reason why it's important to make that decision, because like I said, God's will ain't always going to be fun. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's sometimes God's will might seem like God has punished you. You know, y'all know my testimony. Y'all know what I went through as a child. You know, I felt like God didn't love me. I felt like I was cursed. But again, that was all part of his will. So that's a decision. It's very important that you make that decision if you're going to have that close relationship with God. So that way, no matter what happens to you, as you serve the Lord, it won't pull you out of God's will. It won't pull you out of the ministry because you like, well, you know, it must be a part of all things. And that's what I say sometimes. You know, there's a famous preacher, he used to say that. And, you know what I'm saying, it must be a part of all things. And that's how I look at it. When the bad happen, must be a part of all things. When the good happen, must be a part of all things. But you got to understand, all things work together for good to them that love God and to them who are called according to his purpose. So that's why you have to make the decision that you're going to follow God's will. And if you make that decision that you're going to follow God's will, then you'll be able to continue to have that close relationship with the Lord. So then after that, he said, I took your ancestor Abraham from the land beyond the Euphrates and led him into the land of Canaan. He said, I gave him many descendants through his son Isaac, and to Isaac I gave Jacob and Esau. So number 14 is this. You have to decide if you're going to stand on the promises of God. That's a decision that you have to make if you're going to stand on the promises of God. You know, and that's another one. I brought that from Dr. Miller. That's another one that came up in our lesson this week. And he told us, and again, I didn't research it, and you know, he said he didn't either. So I'm not sure. So if you want to take the time to go count them, you can. But according to Dr. Miller, he said a friend of his counted it, and there was 7,447 promises in the Bible that God makes in the Bible that we have the right to stand on as children of God. You know what I'm saying? There was 7,447 promises that God made that we have the right to stand on. You know, as children of God, we have rights to those promises as children of God. So you have to decide if you're going to stand on those promises. We got all these promises, and a lot of times we don't make the decision that we're going to stand on these promises. And that's what they did. He said he took him to the land of Canaan and gave him many descendants through his son Isaac. To Isaac I gave Jacob and Esau. So again, that was a promise that God made, because y'all remember, again, when he called Abraham was an old man and he didn't have kids at the time. You know, and he was up in his 90s and he still didn't have kids at the time. And his wife, when he finally had a kid, he was 100 years old and his wife was 90 years old. So could you imagine having kids or even being able to have kids at that age? But the Lord told him he was going to have kids, and he stood on that promise. Now, he did kind of try to do it himself, and he ended up having a kid by one of his servant girls, and that didn't quite work out. As a matter of fact, we're still suffering from that today, because he tried to do it on his own. You know what I'm saying? But he did eventually, do it the right way, and he had a kid with his wife Sarah. And they had the kid that was the kid of the promise, which was Isaac. You know what I'm saying? So, but Abraham did everything he did because he stood on the promises of God. God promised him that he was going. He told him, he said, "You leave the land of your nativity. He said, leave your folks and go to the land I'm gonna show you, and I'm gonna bless you, and I'm gonna give you all these descendants, and so many descendants that you won't even be able to count them. It's gonna be more than the sand on the seashore." And he made that promise to Abraham, and Abraham believed him, and he left his nativity, his home, his nativity, and he believed in the Lord. And because of that, he had his full faith in the Lord, and the Lord did bless him. And he did stand on the promises of God. So he stood on the promises that God made, and God made Abraham a lot of promises, and Abraham believed all of them. As a matter of fact, he said because he believed in God, it made him righteous. That's what made him righteous. And it made him a friend of God. Because y'all remember, in the beginning, Abraham and God talked all the time. He was close enough of a friend to God to where when God was going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, he was able to sit there and kind of debate back and forth with God about the situation. And kind of, what was the word I'm looking for? It was not necessarily debate. When you haggle him over the price. You know how you go to a car dealership and you haggle over the price? Well, he kind of did the same thing, but with that city. You're like, Lord, if it is 50 there, you're going to destroy the city? Surely you wouldn't do that. Surely you're a righteous God. I never would imagine in my right mind to be telling God, oh, surely you wouldn't do something like that, something that low down, God, because that's basically what he was saying. And God was like, I tell you what, if it's 50 that I won't do it. He said, well, what if there's 40? He said, it was 40 that I won't do it. He said, well, no, he said 50, and then he said, yeah, he talked him down. He said 50, and then he said 45, then he said 40. And then I think after 40, he started going by tens. Then he's like, well, what if there's 30? Then he said, well, if there's 20? And then finally he got down the last time, he said 10. And then he said 10, he's like, all right, you know what I'm saying? If it's 10, I won't destroy it. And he was fine with 10 because he had 10 relatives and his nephew Lot that stayed in the city. So he's like, well, surely Lot and his relatives would be enough to save that city. But guess what? It wasn't. And there's only 4 found there. And that was Lot and his wife and his 2 daughters. You know what I'm saying? But he had a close enough relationship with God that he was able to do that. And the reason why he had that close relationship with God, because he always stood on God's promises. When God promised him that if he left his land of nativity and he went to this foreign land, that he would make him prosperous. And when he promised him, even though he was almost 100 years old and didn't have no kids, that he was going to have his own descendants, he believed those promises and he stood on those promises and he acted in accordance to those promises, and God delivered on all those promises. Not one thing that the Lord promised Abraham did not come true. And Abraham stood on those promises because he had that close relationship with God. So when you're able to stand on the promises of God, you will be able to have a closer relationship with God because you believe that God is going to do everything that he told you he's going to do, and he's going to keep his word to you. You know what I'm saying? So number 14, you have to decide if you're going to stand on the promises of God. And like I said, I didn't do the research, so don't come in here and get mad and tell me, John, it ain't that many. I just counted it. That's what the preacher man said. He said there was 7,447 promises of the Bible that we have the right to stand on if we just put our faith and trust in the word of the Lord. So you got to stand on the promises of God, and that's what Abraham did, and that's why he was so successful, and that's why his descendants became the nation of Israel, because he stood on the promises of God. So then he said, to Esau I gave the hill country of Seir, while Jacob and his children went down to Egypt. So again, that's a reference back to number 13. Why did Jacob and his people go down to Egypt? Because it was part of God's will. God led them down there so they could be saved, because he knew there was about to be a famine. And y'all remember how that whole thing played out. You know, of course, Joseph's brother got jealous of him, and they sold him to slavery. And Joseph ended up going down to Egypt as a slave, and became, worked in the house of I think it was Potiphar first, which was like one of the head chief guys in Egypt. And then some stuff happened there with Potiphar's wife, and he ended up getting thrown in prison. Then while he was in prison for 2-3 years, he ended up being like the best prisoner. And then eventually a situation came with Pharaoh, and he got to go before Pharaoh and interpret a dream, and Pharaoh ended up making him basically the ruler of the land. And because of that, he was able to save his family. See, that was all part of God's will. And so that's why I say you got to be able to follow God's will. You think Joseph wanted to be in jail? You think he wanted to be rejected by his brothers like that? That had to hurt for his brothers to do him like that. But it was all part of God's will. And you remember at the end, he even said it when his brothers came and apologized, like, man, I hope you don't, they were basically like, man, you got to, Dad said you got to forgive us. And he said, oh, y'all ain't got to worry about nothing. He said, what y'all meant for evil, God turned to good. In other words, it was part of God's will. Y'all didn't do that. God put me there. You see what I'm saying? So that's a reference to that. That's why they went down to Egypt, because it was part of God's will. So they reference us right back to number 13. You have to decide if you're going to follow God's will or not. He said in verse 5, he said, then I sent Moses and Aaron, and I brought terrible plagues on Egypt, and afterward I brought you out as free people. So that's a reference back to number 2 from the last lesson. And number 2 from the last lesson was you have to decide if you're going to let the Lord fight your battles. And that's what happened. They fought the battles. You know what I'm saying? They let the Lord fight their battles, and he fought their battles in Egypt. Remember, he went to Pharaoh and said, let him go, and Pharaoh wouldn't let him go, and the Lord just started hitting them with the plagues. He started hitting them with all the plagues. You read that today? That's crazy. That's how God works. And you got to be this lesson tonight when you wouldn't have been able to do it Friday. So God is working on you, Ashley. I'm glad you're here. But you know what I'm saying? But again, there's a reference back to number 2. The Lord was fighting their battles, and that's why they was able to be freed from Egypt. So that's a reference back to number 2. If you want the Lord to fight your battles, you got to have a close relationship with him. So he said, but when your ancestors arrived at the Red Sea, the Egyptians chased after them, chased after you with chariots and horses. And when you cried out to the Lord, I put darkness between you and the Egyptians, and I brought the sea crashing down on the Egyptians, drowning them. So again, the Lord fought their battles, and they freed them. Not only did he free them from Egypt, but he freed them when they came, when they tried to come back and take them back into bondage. The Lord protected them, and he drowned the Egyptians. So once again, the Lord was fighting that battle. So then he said, with your very own eyes, you saw what I did, and then you lived in the wilderness for many years. So this is going to be number 15. Point number 15 is this. You have to decide if you want to see God's goodness in your life. You have to decide if you want to see God's goodness in your life. What do I mean when I say that? God does so much for us, but a lot of us choose to ignore what he does. You know what I'm saying? The fact that you're up and alive today, I don't care what your situation is. You might be in a bad situation. You might have to sleep under a bridge, but you're alive to be able to sleep under that bridge. You know what I'm saying? God does so many miracles. I remember this one time I was talking to a guy on the phone. It was like a big, something happened. I think it was a big look or something, but I was talking to somebody about God. And, and I was talking about, giving my life to God and things of that nature. And they didn't believe in God. And I like, well, he said, I don't believe God don't do. He said something to the fact that God don't do anything for me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I said, the fact that you have a job, the fact that me and you're here talking right now, the fact that you woke up this morning shows you that God has done something for you. He's like, no, God didn't wake me up this morning. My alarm clock woke me up this morning. You know what I'm saying? So it showed that guy, he got, even though God had done all these things for him, he was still choosing to ignore it. You know what I'm saying? And you got to be able to look and see. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times we ignore and we say, oh, I was lucky. Oh, matter of fact, perfect example, actually what you're talking about here tonight. You just happen to read one of the stories that I just mentioned, and because I went tonight instead of yesterday, you was able to be here. See, that's God's working. That's God working in your life, and you're seeing it. And you see, oh, this is part of God's will. I was meant to be here to hear this lesson. But it's so many times we write God's miracles off as coincidences. Oh, I got lucky. I just happened to be there in the right time. Oh, I was lucky. And people say, oh, man, you lucky. And I tell people all the time, I don't believe in luck. I just believe in God's will. I believe in God's grace. That's what I believe. I don't believe in luck. And it's so many times we write the miracles off and the things that God does for us, we write them off as, oh, I was lucky, or, you know what I'm saying, that was I got lucky, or it was a coincidence, when really it's God showing you that I'm working in your life. And you got to be able to see it. And that's what Joshua said. You saw this with your own eyes. You saw the goodness of God. And you got to be able to recognize that. But you won't be able to recognize that if you don't have a close relationship with God, because you're not looking for God's goodness. You're looking for your goodness from the world. You're not looking at what God is doing for you. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't have that, again, these are all decisions that you got to make if you want to have that close relationship. And if you decide that I'm going to look and see the things that God is doing for me and give God the credit for the things he's doing for me, then you better see he's doing all these things like, oh man, that was God right there. I say it all the time, like, man, that wasn't nothing but God. You know, matter of fact, I met a lady, I was out knocking on doors today, and we kind of talked about that. And she said, oh, yeah, I see God work. She said, sometimes stuff happen, and I just be like, it wasn't nothing but God. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because she was seeing God working in her life. You know what I'm saying? And that's what Joshua was telling them. You know what I'm saying? Y'all was stuck in Egypt. The Lord came and rescued y'all out of Egypt. The Egyptians came and chased you down. And, you know what I'm saying? And the Lord, while y'all was walking through the sea, they came and chased you down. But the Lord ended up drowning them all, because took out Pharaoh's whole army in like one swift. He said, that was God right there. And you got to be able to see things like that. So you got all these problems mounting up in your life, but at the same time you see things happening that's taking care of them problems, you got to be able to recognize and acknowledge, hey, that was God right there. And when you start seeing these things, God working in your life, you realize, man, God really is for me. You know what I'm saying? He really is. He really does do all those things. Because I think a lot of people, they expect when God does something for it to just be like the heavens open up and the chariots of fire come down and it's these mighty things. And God has the ability to do that. But a lot of times when God's working in your life, it's subtle things. It's just little things. It's just little things, little ways of he letting things work out just in your favor, the way you need them to work out. That's how God works. It's not always major things, it's little things. But you won't be able to see these little things, and you won't be able to give him credit for these little things if you're not looking for these things. So you got to be looking for God to be working in your life. And when you're looking for God to work in your life, you will see it, because he does work in your life on a daily basis. Again, if you up this morning, You know what I'm saying? You up this morning and you know what I'm saying, you breathing, you ate some food. It might not have been the food that you wanted to eat, but you ate some food. You know what I'm saying? You might not be driving the car that you want to drive, but you got a car to drive. You see what I'm saying? God is working in your life, and you have to be able to see that. And the more you're able to see that, the closer your relationship with him will be. A lot of times, like I said, but before I gave my life to God, I felt like I was cursed and God had never done nothing for me. But then when he called me that night and he showed me all the stuff he had done, I realized I was a fool. He had been working for me the whole time. You know what I'm saying? He showed me how many times I could have been dead already. He showed me how much worse my situation could be, but it wasn't, because he was protecting me. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the things when I pray to the Lord, I pray that, I thank him for everything that I see he's doing, that I know he's doing, but I also thank him for everything that I don't know he's doing, because I'm guarantee you he's doing way more things for you that you can't see, that you can see. You know what I'm saying? So much stuff that goes on behind the scenes. I mean, I look at my family. I'm married. I got 3 kids that are in school, and since this coronavirus happened, we have yet to contract it. My kids have been around people that has had it. My kids work in the public. So I go out soul winning all the time. I'm always in the public. We've been to games and everything. Have yet to come down to coronavirus. Why? Because God is protecting us. You see what I'm saying? So again, he's working behind the scene. Now, I do believe we had it before they called it coronavirus, because we was sick. And that might be the reason, because we've already had it. But since there's been announced the coronavirus, the COVID, and they came down with all these regulations and all this stuff, we have yet to have it. Anybody in our household or in our immediate family, for that matter, has come down to coronavirus. That's because of God's protection. You know what I'm saying? So you got to understand, God does so much for us that we don't even recognize. But he does a lot of stuff for us that we can recognize if we open our eyes, and we will see it. So number 15, you have to decide if you want to see it. And a lot of people, they don't want to see it because they don't want to because they know if they see it, then they got to admit that God is real, and they got to admit that God is doing stuff for them, and then they got to change their lifestyle and start doing the things that God wants them to do. So a lot of them, they just choose to ignore it so they can be what the Bible calls willingly ignorant. They choose to be willingly ignorant because they feel if they don't open their eyes to see it, then they ain't got to start living for the Lord and change their lifestyle. But you have to make the decision if you're going to choose to see God's goodness in your life. And that's what Joshua told them. Said, y'all have seen the things, and you saw this with your own eyes. You've seen the things that the Lord has done for you. And don't forget that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. So, but you have to choose to see that God is working in your life. You have to choose, because again, a lot of people see it, but they ignore it. They play it off as luck or coincidence, and in reality, that's God is calling to them, showing them straight out that hey, I'm doing this for you. But you got to choose whether you're going to ignore it or you're going to give God the credit for the work that He's been doing. So then in verse 80 says, so finally, I brought you into the land of the Amorites on the east side. And again, he's kind of giving them a history lesson, kind of reminding them of where they was at and where they came from, where they at now and where they was at then when this whole journey started, because he's trying to make them remember how good God has been to them all this time and how far he's brought them. So he said, finally, I brought you into the land of the Amorites on the east side of the Jordan, and they fought against you. But I gave you victory over them, and you took possession of their land. So once again, a reference back to number 2. Matter of fact, number 2 going to come up several times. But a reference back to number 2, which was you have to decide that the Lord is going to fight your battles. See, they had that, they got that victory, and they were able to come in and conquer their land because the Lord was fighting the battle for them the entire time. So you have to make that decision. So again, that's another important decision you have to make is if the Lord going to fight your battles or you're going to try to do it on your own. So then in verse 9, he said, then Balak, son of Zippor, king of Moab, started a war against Israel, and he asked Balaam, son of Beor, to curse you, but I would not listen to him. Instead, I made Balaam bless you, and so I rescued you from Balak. So number 16 is this. This is another new one. This is another one that you got to decide. You have to decide if you want to live under God's protection. That's a decision that you have to make. You have to decide if you want to live under God's protection. And again, all that God's protection comes from what? Having a close relationship with the Lord. If you have a close relationship with the Lord, then you're going to be under God's protection. Now, God is going to be there for you. He's going to make sure that you have what you need. He's going to make sure that when the enemy's trying to attack you, the enemies you can't even see, he's going to keep you from it. They couldn't see that, they didn't see what was going on. Like I said earlier, I thank God for all the stuff he do that I don't see. They couldn't see what was going on that mountain where Balak was up there trying to get Balaam to curse them. They couldn't see that, but God saw it, and he protected them from it. You know what I'm saying? Because they was under his protection. At that time, they was living for the Lord. They was doing everything they were supposed to be doing. They was exactly where they were supposed to be, and they was doing what they were supposed to be doing. So they was under God's protection because they had that close relationship with the Lord. They was worshiping the Lord the way they were supposed to be worshiping the Lord. They was where they were supposed to be at, and they was doing what they were supposed to be doing. So again, you have to decide do you want God's protection? Do you want God's protection in your life? Then you need to have a close relationship with the Lord. That's the only way it's going to happen. If you had that close relationship with the Lord, then you're going to have God's protection. Y'all remember Job? You remember Job? Again, go back to Job. I think I brought Job up last time. Remember Job? Well, when the devil went and, was up there in heaven. And you're like, man, you see my servant Job? You know what I'm saying? God was bragging on him. And the devil said, well, no wonder he's your servant. Look how much you take care of him. He said, take your heads from about him and let me touch him. And I guarantee you he'll curse you to your face. So what did it show you? The devil had been trying to get at Job for the longest. He had already been trying to get at Job, but he couldn't because God's protection was around him because Job has such a close relationship with the Lord. You see what I'm saying? So if you want that protection, I promise you, that's why I believe that we haven't had that contracted the coronavirus yet, and it hadn't came in my house yet. And I thank the Lord for it. And knock on wood, and I don't believe in superstition, but I thank the Lord for it. And I think I know it's all because of God's protection. He keeps us protected. I keep doing my part, like I said in verse 12. I keep doing my part to bring the people in my world to him, and he's doing his part. He's keeping me protected, giving me an encouragement, enthusiasm, and the strength I need to keep going forward and doing his work. I do my part, he's going to do his part. And keeping us safe and protected from the outside world and all the elements of this world, that's part of his part. That's God's protection. So if you want God's protection on your life, then you have to have a close relationship with the Lord. So again, you have to decide if you want to live under God's protection. And the way you decide that, by deciding whether you're going to have that close relationship with him or not. Because you have a close relationship with him, then he will be for you. And as long as he's for you, nothing or no one can be against you. So again, number 16, you have to decide if you want to live under God's protection. And that's what they did. You know what I'm saying? Balaam was sitting there Balaam was trying to curse him. Balak was trying to get Balaam to curse him. Again, they couldn't see it. They didn't know what was going on in that mountain. They didn't know what God was doing for them, but God was taking care of them because they was his people. And at that moment in time, they was doing what they were supposed to be doing. They had a close relationship with God, and that's why they was protected. That's why Balaam couldn't possess. Because if you go down a little bit farther, you see a little bit down the road that they are actually going to fall out of God's grace because they're going to do some stuff they're not supposed to, and they lost their hedge of protection. You see what I'm saying? But as long as they do what they're supposed to be doing, as long as they got that close relationship with God and they're worshiping God and God only, then guess what? That wall of protection will be around you, and nobody or nothing will be able to touch you. So if you have to decide if you want to live under God's protection, and you make the decision by deciding whether or not you're going to have a close relationship with the Lord, which is what we've been talking about for these two parts. So then in verse 11, he said, now when you crossed the Jordan River and came to Jericho, the men of Jericho fought against you. There were also many others who fought you, including the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. He said, but I gave you victory over them. So again, that's another reference back to number 7 from last week. And number 7 was, you have to decide if you want your enemies to be able to stand before you. And because the Israelites was doing what they were supposed to be doing, they was under the leadership of Joshua, so they had that close relationship with the Lord. So all these people that was kept coming against them, they couldn't prevail against them because they had that close relationship with the Lord. So you got to understand that's why I say it's important to make the decision to have that close relationship with the Lord, because if you do, your enemies won't be able to stand against you. And none of these nations that tried to come against the Israelites could stand against the Israelites, because the Israelites was in a close relationship with the Lord, and therefore they was under the Lord's protection. So then he said, and I sent hornets ahead of you to drive out the 2 kings of the Amorites, and it was not by your swords or bows that brought you the victory. So again, they go number 2. So that's the third time that we reference number 2, which was, you deciding to let the Lord fight your battles. Because that's what the Israel did when they went into the land. He said, I'm going to go before you, and I'm gonna send the hornets out. And he said, no, that was one of the promises he made. So they stood on the promises, and he said, I'm going to go before you. And they just went, and they put their faith. They stood on the promises. They put their faith in God, and God, because of that, God fought their battles. And that's why they was able to conquer the land, and that's why they was able to conquer all these nations. 31 kings they defeated when they came into the land, and they was able to do all that because they had that close relationship with the Lord. So then he said, I gave you land you had not worked for, and I gave you cities that you did not work for. And I gave you, he said, I gave you land that you did not work for, and I gave you cities you did not build. The cities in which you are not living, I gave you vineyards, and I gave you olive groves for food, though you did not plant them. So that's a reference back to number 9. You have to decide whether your prosperity is going to continue or is going to waste away. And the reason why I say that is because, no, the Lord is telling, I gave you all these things. But why did he give them all those things? Because they was in a close relationship with him. So the moment, if you were in a close relationship with the Lord, he's going to bless you. But the moment you turn your back on the Lord and you get away from the relationship, guess what you're going to do? You're going to lose that grace. So those things that he gave you that made you prosper, he'll take his hand away and he can take them right back. Again, go back to Job. What did Job say? When Job's wife was like, you know what I'm saying, you want to just go ahead and curse God and die? What did he say? You acting like a fool. He said, I came to this world naked, and I'm going to leave this world naked. God, the Lord giveth, and the Lord taketh away. He realized that God gave him those things, and the Lord can take those things away. And I think sometimes we forget that because God is so good to us, and he blesses us with so much, and he does so much for us, we forget the truly honor him and really the honor and cherish the thing he gives us and show our appreciation for the things he gives us. And we a lot of the time we turn our back on him. And when we turn our back on him, then he's like, well, all right, well, I just take my stuff back. You know what I'm saying? He takes it back from you because he take that grace off of you and you start losing those very things that he gave you. And that's what Joshua was telling them. If y'all want to keep this stuff, don't forget the Lord gave you all these things and you want to make sure you keep these things, then you get to make sure that you stay in that close relationship with the Lord. Matter of fact, he's going to say it in this next paragraph. He said, no, the Lord gave you all these vineyards. He gave you these olive groves, though you did not plant them. He said, so in verse 14, he said, so honor the Lord and serve him wholeheartedly. Put away forever the idols your ancestors worshiped when they lived beyond the Euphrates River and in Egypt. Serve the Lord alone. So number 17, number 11 is this, and it's also going to be number 17. It's a reference back to number 11 from last week. And number 11 was you have to decide whether or not you're going to serve the Lord or yourself. So he's telling them you need to decide if you're going to serve the Lord. If you want to keep this prosperity going, you need to decide whether or not you're going to serve the Lord or not. But number 17 is this. You have to decide if you're not only going to serve the Lord, but you're going to serve the Lord alone. In other words, are you going to wholeheartedly because you can decide to serve the Lord, but you still got all these other stuff that you're trying to put your time and energy into as well. You know what I'm saying? So you got to make a decision that when you, not only you're going to serve the Lord, you're going to serve the Lord alone because you can't serve two masters. A lot of people say, oh, yeah, I'm going to serve the Lord, but yet they still got to make sure, you know what I'm saying, work come up. They're going to put work before for going to church. Well, I got to work this week, so I guess I can't go to church. You know, so that's one thing I come across all the time. Matter of fact, I talked to a lady tonight, 2 or 3 people I talked to tonight. When I asked them if they still going to church, they said, well, I'm usually pretty busy. So, because of work, I don't get to go to church kind of thing. And something I've learned, if you're in the right, first of all, you're in the right church, like our church, we have services Wednesday night, Sunday morning, and Sunday night. It ain't nowhere in the world that your schedule going to keep you from going all of them. You know what I'm saying? It ain't going to keep you from going all of them. You see what I'm saying? So you got to understand, you're going to make time to do what you really want to do. You know what I'm saying? Using that work, that's just an excuse because you don't want to go anyway. Oh, well, my work schedule. Because I told y'all when I first got back into going to church, and you know what I'm saying, I was working from 7 o'clock at night to 7 o'clock in the morning. You know what I'm saying? And I still went to church. And I was working 100 hours a week. I still went to church. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, not only did I still go to church, I worked in the bus ministry. That's why I started off working in the bus ministry. And I still went to church. You know what I'm saying? So I did what I really wanted to do. And that's what you got to understand. You got to do you got to make the decision what you're going to say. Because you can get into all these other things and try to serve these two masters. It's not going to work out. You got to give your whole heart to serve the Lord. Matter of fact, I was thinking about today, this weekend was TSU's homecoming, which is where I graduated my alma mater. And when I was in college, I pledged a fraternity, Omega Psi Phi. And I really, man, honestly, I used to regret I never did cross over because of some situations. But I always regret it because I've never quit. It's only two things I've ever quit in my life where I just like, you know what, I'm done with this. I quit. And I regretted it for the longest. But now that I look back on it, it's a reason why I didn't cross over, especially with Omega Psi Phi, because I actually pledged 4 different times. I pledged their fraternity 4 different times, and every year that I pledged their fraternity, something happened that was beyond my control that kept me from getting into it. So for the last time, I just like, okay, I'm done with this, and I just gave up on getting into it. So I was always, you know what I'm saying, it always bothered me, like, man, why didn't I go back and, try again? But now that I'm older and I'm serving the Lord, I realized the reason why I didn't get in that fraternity. And the reason what brought it up, because like I said, it's homecoming. So a lot of my people that I graduated with, they've been posting pictures, and a lot of the guys, because me and a lot of the guys from the fraternity, we're really good friends. You know what I'm saying? So I see their pictures and I see them there and they throwing the little signs up for the fraternity. And I realize, the type of person I am, and y'all know me that know this, I dedicate myself. Whatever I'm doing, I dedicate myself to it fully. And I really believe that had I got into that fraternity, I would have been so dedicated to doing the things in that fraternity, I wouldn't be able to serve God as the way I am. Matter of fact, I think my life would be completely different than what it is now. I know my life would have been completely different because I've been so focused on serving that fraternity and doing things for that fraternity, I wouldn't have been able to do the same amount of work for God that I'm doing now. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I understand. I didn't see that at first, but once I really started serving the Lord and I saw the direction my life was going in, I said, you know what? That's why I didn't make it in that fraternity. Because I try my darndest, y'all. Most people, they play us once, and they don't make that first time, that's it. I played 4 different times, and each time something happened. And I was trying my best to get into the fraternity, and I couldn't, but now I realize why. Because that wasn't in God's will for me. And I realized, because the guys that's in it, they're dedicated to it. I mean, some of them, that's who they are. They're such and such the Q. You know what I'm saying? It's like their lifestyle. Every time you see a picture of them, they throwing up the hooks. You know what I'm saying? They doing something with their fraternity. And I realized, had I got into that fraternity, I would have been doing the same thing. And there's no way I've been able to spend that much time in that fraternity and do the work that I'm doing for God now. It wouldn't have happened. And that's why God kept me from it. He didn't allow me to do it because it would have kept me from Him. You see what I'm saying? So you got to understand, you can't serve 2 masters. You got to be wholeheartedly given to God. And I know, honestly, I probably wouldn't even have my family had I got into that fraternity. Because it was after I stopped doing the stuff with that fraternity, I met Brez like a month or so later. Matter of fact, I stopped in April and I met Brez in August. And had I got into that fraternity, I've been living so wild and had so many women and doing all the stuff because you're like superstars when you're in those fraternities. There's no way in the world me and Rez would have been together because I've been so busy chasing skirts and things of that nature. So again, God kept me from that so I can focus my whole heart on serving Him. And you have to make the decision. And that's what Josh was telling them. You have to decide not only are you going to serve the Lord, but you're going to serve the Lord alone. You can't serve the Lord and still serve the things of this world. You can't serve the Lord and still serve money. You can't serve the Lord and still serve all these things. You know what I'm saying? You got to be able to if you're going to give a wholehearted, you got to make sure that time and effort that you put in all these other things, you start converting that into doing things that the Lord will have you to do, building His kingdom and helping the people, bring people in your world to Him. You know, so you got to go wholeheartedly to do these things. Because if you don't go wholeheartedly and you just half-hearted do it, then you're not going to be as effective. You know what I'm saying? That's what Josh was telling them. You know, if y'all only half-heart serve the Lord, you're not going to be as effective. You might get some blessings. You might get somebody to come in at 9 again, but you're not going to be as effective. Why am I here preaching y'all at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night when I could be having my feet kicked? Excuse me, I apologize. I've had a long week, man. We had the missions conference. I had 2 basketball games. So every single night I've been somewhere doing something. And Saturday night is my usually, once I get through soul winning, I used to have nothing to do but kick my feet back and relax. But no, I want to do this lesson. I don't want to let another week go by, a whole week go by, because it looked like it'll be Friday of next week before I get to bring another lesson. So I don't want to have a whole 2 weeks go by without me bringing this word of God, because I'm dedicated to doing this. I've given my whole heart to doing this. I'm not worried about myself right now. I'm more worried about y'all and bringing this word to y'all. So you got to understand, that's what you'll be able to do if you wholeheartedly give it in. But if you're not wholeheartedly giving into this, then any little thing that comes up is going to take you out of doing God's work. You know what I'm saying? So you got to make sure that you serve God and God alone. And that's what, like I said, I talked to 3 different people tonight. Oh, well, because I go to church all the time, I don't get to go, because I go to work all the time, I don't get to go to church. Well, you serving the wrong, you putting money in front of God. You know what I'm saying? You got people that put sports in front of God. Like we got an alumni game coming up in like 3 weeks, and I'm supposed to be playing in it. You know, just old people trying to relive our glory days, and I'm supposed to be playing in it. You know, and they've been having practices for the last 2-3 months. But guess when they have practice? Sunday morning between 11 and 2. And I tell him, man, I can't. And the guy, he's like, man, you gonna make it to practice week? No, I'm not gonna make it to practice week because I gotta be at church. That's the time. That's church time. And I told him, I said, man, look, game day, I'll show up and do what I can. I said, but I can't practice with 11 and 2. That's church. I can't leave church to go practice some football. You know, so I mess around, get hurt, and be messed up and can't go to church or work. So no, I can't do that. Why? I can't serve 2 masters. You know what I'm saying? And there's some guys out there that probably should be at church, but they're out there playing around on the football field. You see what I'm saying? So you got to make the decision. Not only you're going to serve the Lord, but you're going to serve the Lord alone. Because you can make a decision that you're going to serve the Lord, but you're still trying to serve all these other things and all these other entities as well. And it's got to be the Lord. You know what I'm saying? You got to give whole heart to the Lord. Like, yes, I work to provide for my family, you know, to use that get that tool of money to provide for my family, but my heart is doing God's work. That comes first. You know what I'm saying? I even told my boss that before. I was like, look, you know, I love this place, I love this job, I'm gonna do everything I can to make this company successful and do my part. I said, but when it boils down to it, if I had to make a choice, God comes first. So that's what Joshua telling them. Not only do you have to serve the Lord, you got to make sure you serve the Lord alone. So again, you got to make sure you're going to serve the Lord, but you got to make sure it's on the Lord. He said, but this is what, honestly, this next statement here is what prompted this whole sermon, this whole lesson is from this statement here. And I just one of my favorite statements, man, because it's him making his decision. He said, so under the Lord and serve him wholeheartedly, put away forever the idols your ancestors worship when they lived beyond the Euphrates River and in Egypt, and serve the Lord alone. He said, but if you are unwilling to serve the Lord, then choose today whom you will serve. So again, you got to make a decision. He said, now, would you prefer the gods of your ancestors, the gods your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates, or will it be the gods of the Amorites in whose land you now live? And here you go. He said, but as for me and my family, we will serve the Lord. You know what I'm saying? Now, of course, in King James Version, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Man, that was so. Matter of fact, when I soul winning today, somebody had that verse, a little stencil of that verse on their door, and I knocked on the door, but they didn't answer. And I wanted down like, man, I'm doing a lesson on it tonight, but they didn't answer, so I just left a track in the door. But he made it. That's a bold statement there. So not only do you gotta, if you are family, and this is as a father or mother, that's why I want to preface this decision as a father or mother, or even just as a leader of your family, or you know what I'm saying, a leader of the family, a head of the house. You have to make the decision. You have to decide whom your family will be ruled by. Will it be ruled by the Lord or the world? And that's what Joshua was saying there. He said, look, you know what I'm saying, y'all can do what y'all want to, but as far as me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. You know what I'm saying? So he had already decided that and we know from the life of Joshua that he had already decided he was going to serve the Lord. But not only did he make the decision that he's going to serve the Lord, he made the decision that it's outside your door. Oh, that's pretty cool. And like I said, the door I knocked on tonight, they had that stencil on there, and I wish they would have opened the door because I would love to talk to them about it, but they didn't open the door when I knocked. But again, Joshua made the decision that him and his family are going to serve the Lord. You have to decide that. Who's going to rule your house? Is the world and the things of the world going to rule your house, or is the Lord going to rule your house? And that's what Joshua said. And you know, y'all know me, y'all know my kids and stuff. The same thing. I wish they would come to church more. You know what I'm saying? I wish they'd come to church more, but they've got on their own. And I told them, that's the rule of my house. If you in my house, you going to church. If you're eating the food that God has blessed us with, that God has given me the ability to bless us with, you know what I'm saying? You're using the electricity that God has given me the ability to be able to pay for, you know what I'm saying? Using my heat and all that, and you going to my house, you going to church. Now, once they leave out my house and they get their own establishment, that's on them. That's for them to continue to build upon the foundation that I laid. But as for me and my house, again, my house, we're going to serve the Lord. You know what I'm saying? So as long as they was in my house, they served the Lord. And they know what they should be doing, and they know what they're supposed to be doing. You know what I'm saying? And they're not getting there, show up in church. And again, of course, the Proverbs say you train the child up in the way he should go, and when he's older, he won't depart from it. So, you know what I'm saying? So they still young, and they got to get to that point where they had a relationship with themselves. But as long as they was in my house, they served the Lord. You know what I'm saying? And that's what Joshua said. As long as you in my house, as long as you under my authority, as long as you in my house and using my resources, you're going to serve the Lord. And as a mother and a father or a leader of your household, you have to make the same decision. You know what I'm saying? I tell guys all the time, you know what I'm saying? You the one, because sometimes you have situations where the wife might want to go to church, but the husband don't want to go to church. You know what I'm saying? Or you might have a situation where the husband go to church and the wife don't want to go to church. But when it all boils down, it's on the man. If there's a woman and a man present, it is on the man. Because you look at back to the Garden of Eden, when the fruit was eaten, even though Eve was the one that ate it first, who did God go to? He said, you know what I'm saying? He went to Adam. He said, why did you do this? Of course, Adam, it was the woman. You know, he blamed it on the wife. He didn't just take responsibility himself. He was snitching. And he said, oh, well, it's that woman you gave me that made me do it. But who was responsible? Who did God go to first? He went to Adam first because Adam was responsible. But so if you're a man, it's on your responsibility. When you step before God, now, even if your wife didn't want to go or whatever, when you step before God, you're going to be the one that God asks, why do your kids not know about me? Now, why have your kids not spent time? He ain't going to want to hear, well, my wife didn't want to go. You're like, well, who's the man in the house? You know what I'm saying? It's going to come on you. But if you're a single parent, whether a man or the woman, same thing apply. You know, if you're a single parent and you're raising the kids by yourself, you still got to be the one that determines whether your house is going to follow the Lord. They're going to follow your example. If you follow the Lord wholeheartedly, then guess what? 9 times 10, they will eventually as well. They might not do it right off. Like I said, my boys, they don't go to church as much as they need to, but they always call me and oh, man, God, Dad, what do you think God want me to do? You know what I'm saying? I need to talk. And they know I'm going to give them some spiritual advice. You know, they come to me for spiritual advice. And again, once they mature, I believe if they mature and get older, they're going to get back to it. Right now, they're just young and dumb and full of you know what. You know what I'm saying? But, you know what I'm saying? For me and my house, I will serve the Lord. I made a decision that me and my family is going to serve the Lord. If you stay at my house, we're going to serve the Lord. And that's just bottom line. And you're responsible for that. So as a parent, like I said, as a parent or a leader of the family, you got to understand your family's faith and their faith in God, their relationship with God is based upon you making a decision that you're going to serve the Lord. So when you decide that you're going to serve the Lord, when you decide that you're going to serve the Lord alone, then you also decide is your family going to do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to be your responsibility to make that decision. That's what Joshua did. He said, look, y'all going to serve whoever y'all want to. Those are y'all got the right. He said, but if me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. Man, I love that verse. And like I said, Ashley, I'm glad you got it on your door. We got on our wall in our house. And there's several doors I've knocked on, and that's always there. And that's such a wonderful decision to make. But again, you have to make that decision. You know what I'm saying? If you make the decision that once you make the decision, then you can have that close relationship with the Lord. And not only can you have that close relationship with the Lord, you can make sure that other people in your house have that same close relationship with the Lord as well. So number 18, as a father or mother or a leader of the family, you have to decide whom your family will be ruled by, the Lord or the world. And that's what Joshua was telling them. Y'all can go worship all them other gods. You can go worship the God of money or the God of fame or whatever, or you can serve the Lord. He said, but for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. So he made a decision not only to serve the Lord, but he made a decision that his house is going to do the same as well. So then he says here, in verse 16, he says, so the people replied, we would never forsake the Lord and worship other gods. For the Lord our God is the one who rescued us and our ancestors from slavery in the land of Egypt. He performed mighty miracles before our very eyes. As we traveled through the wilderness among our enemies, he preserved us. It was the Lord who drove out the Amorites and the other nations living here in the land. So we too will serve the Lord, for he alone is our God. So again, that's a reference. They brought up 2 points that we talked about. You know what I'm saying? You have to decide if you want to see the goodness of God in your life. So they saying, look, we saw it. We did see it with our own eyes. So they letting Joshua know that, so they made the decision to see the goodness of God. They let Joshua know, like, look, we saw what God was doing. Yeah, we in fact have seen that God did this. We know God did this. We know he did that. We know he protected us. We know he brought us out of Egypt. We know he conquered out our enemies. We know it's because of him that we was able to get this land. And then it said not only we're going to serve the Lord, but we're going to serve him alone. So there's a reference back to 15 and 17. They saw that the goodness of God. They saw that God, they chose to see that it was God that was working in life. They chose to give God the props and the praise that he deserved for what he did. And they said, because of that, we're going to serve the Lord. So there's a reference back to 15 and 17. So then in verse 19 says, so then Joshua said to the people, you are not able to serve the Lord, for he is holy and jealous. He is a holy and jealous God. He would not forgive your rebellion and sins. And if you forsake the Lord and serve other gods, he will turn against you and destroy you, even though he has been so good to you. So that takes us back to number 6 and number 10. That's a reference back to, I told you I was going to be a lot of referring back. Because these two chapters really parallel each other. So number 6, again, you have to decide if you're going to stay faithful to the Lord. You're going to have to decide if you're going to stay faithful to the Lord no matter what. And you also, number 10 was, you have to decide if you will receive the Lord's grace or the world's wrath. So basically Joshua was telling them, he said, look, y'all can't serve. He said, I know how y'all are. Y'all are hard-headed. And y'all have a tendency of turn your back, because y'all saw when Moses was trying to bring them out of the land. They kept on waffling back and forth, complaining about Moses wanting to go back to Egypt. So he's saying y'all are hard-headed. Y'all ain't gonna be don't even say that, because you ain't gonna be able to do it. You ain't gonna be able to stick with it. It's gonna be hard because he's a holy God, he's a jealous God. So so they refer back to number 6 where he said, you got to be faithful no matter what. But also number 10, which I think I wrote that was wrong. That should be number 9. You have to decide if your prosperity will continue to waste away. And that was what Joshua was saying. Like, he's been good to you now. He gave you all this land, and he's protected you. He's done all these things for you. But if you turn back, he's going to take that stuff away. He's been protecting you, and he's been keeping you under his grace for right now. But if you turn back against him, he'll easily take it away. So then in verse 6, it says, but the people answered Joshua, saying, no, we are determined to serve the Lord. So again, they said, reference back to number 6, no, we're gonna be faithful no matter what. We're not gonna waffle back and forth, Joshua. We're gonna be faithful no matter what. So then he says, all right. So then he said, you in verse 22, you are accountable for this decision. Joshua said, you have chosen to serve the Lord. So number 19 is this. And I know we've been talking about decisions and that you have to make. So number 19 is this. Not only do you have to make these decisions, you have to be sincere with these decisions. You know what I'm saying? You got to be sincere. This is when you want to serve the Lord and have that close relationship with the Lord, it has to be a sincere decision that you're going to do so. So not only do you have to make those decisions, you got to be sincere. And that's what Joshua was trying to see. Are they just saying something to please him because he's on his deathbed, and it's just like, oh, no, man, you ain't got to worry about it. We're going to serve the Lord. Or are they really sincere? And that's why Joshua kept saying, like, oh, no, I don't think y'all can. I don't think y'all sincere about it. When you make these decisions, you got to be sincere about these decisions. There is no going back and forth. What did the Lord say in Revelation? He said, I'd rather you be hot or cold, because if you lukewarm, then I'll spit you out of my mouth. I will spew you out of my mouth. In other words, you can't keep on going back and forth. When you make a sincere decision that you're going to serve the Lord, then but when you make a decision you're going to serve the Lord, you just need to be sincere about it. And I remember, again, I always use myself as an example. I remember several times where I made decisions for the Lord, to do things for the Lord, to give up things for the Lord that I wasn't sincere about, and I went back on those decisions. You know what I'm saying? And I know the Lord I'm going to have to answer for him one day. One of the main ones I've told y'all before was weed. So I was like, oh, Lord, I'm never going to smoke weed again. And I go for like a year or so and not smoke. And then what happened? Something happened, and I go right back to doing it. I did that several times, probably 4 or 5 times when I promised I won't stop smoking weed, and then I end up doing it later on anyway. I wasn't really sincere about it. You know what I'm saying? But the last time I did was about 3 years ago, and fingers crossed, knock on wood and all that superstitious stuff, that I can continue doing. And I've been doing good so far. I have no intentions of going back on that word. I was sincere about the decision. Matter of fact, all the other times when I made the decision, I had what I call my little weed bag, and I kept like my scales and my baggies and my rolling papers and all that stuff in it. And this last time even though when I made the decision before, I always kept that bag just in case. You know what I'm saying? Because I wasn't really sincere about it. But this last time when I made the decision, I gave that bag away because I was sincere. I was like, this is it. I'm giving it away. And that was like my showing God, like, I'm serious about it this time. Here you go. I gave all this stuff away. So I don't have anything relating to marijuana at all anywhere near me. You know what I'm saying? Because I finally sincerely made that decision. So, you know what I'm saying? You have to sincerely make that decision. And that's what Joshua was telling them. That's why he was like, man, you can't really, you can't do that. You can't do it. Y'all ain't sincere. Y'all just, y'all just saying that just to be saying that. No, you have to be sincere. And that's one of the things, like when I lead people to the Lord and I go to gospel with them, I always tell them, I always ask them, like, especially, when especially going out soul winning, nobody expecting somebody just not going to do it talking about Jesus, because it don't happen often. So when I do it, and they do want to hear the gospel, and I go over with them, and they accept the Lord as Savior, after we get through, I always ask them, I'm like, now, did you say that just to get me out of here so you can get, like if they was watching the game or something, or in the middle of doing something, now, did you just say that so you can get back to watching the game or whatever, or did you really make that decision to trust the Lord? You know what I'm saying? And I always ask them that. And most of them, they always, no, I really meant that. Like, all right, because the being saved is making a sincere decision that you want to accept Jesus Christ in your life. And that's what Joshua was telling them here. Look, you know what I'm saying? Are y'all just saying this because I'm about to die and y'all just want to put me at peace, or do y'all really mean this? You know what I'm saying? And that's why when they first said, oh, no, we've seen what God's done, we're going to serve the Lord. He said, no, I don't think so. Y'all, no, I don't think y'all sincere about it. And you know what I'm saying? He said, no, y'all can't. You got to understand, God's a jealous God. You know what I'm saying? So if you turn back from, all this goodness he's giving you, he's going to take it back. And that's when they say, no, we promise. We're going to do everything we can. He said, all right. So that when they said that, that's when he said, all right, now you're accountable for this decision. Joshua said, you have chosen to serve the Lord. So they had to make that decision, but they had to be sincere about that decision. And that's why Joshua said no in the first place, because he wanted to make sure they were sincere. But they made that promise. So y'all remember that, because we're going to go into Judges next week. The next lesson going to come out of Judges, and we're going to see they wasn't sincere as they said they was. Because it ain't going to be too long after Joshua and the leaders die that they're going to go away from the Lord. But you got to when you make these decisions, all these, so far we went over 18 different decisions, and we got about 4 more, and then I'll be done. But when you make these decisions to have that close relationship with the Lord and do the thing that the Lord wants you to do, you got to be sincere about those decisions. You can't be waffling back and forth. You got to be all in. You know what I'm saying? When you make that decision, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be all in and doing this. You got to make that decision, because if not, the smallest thing that comes along that make you uncomfortable or take you out of your comfort zone, the first thing you're going to do is run away from that decision that you make. And so many times I see people, oh man, I'm going to get back in church and I'm going to start back reading my Bible. And they may do it for a few weeks, and then something bad happen. And then what happened? They get right back out of going to church and reading their Bible. So when you make these decisions, you got to make sure that as you make these decisions, that you're making sincere decisions. It can't be no waffling back and forth. You got to make sure there's sincere decisions so you can be consistent with it, and you really get the grace of God in your life. And that's what Joshua was trying to make sure the decision they was making was a sincere decision. So then they said, so he said, you're accountable for this. All right, now you said you make this decision, you're accountable. So then they said, yes, they replied, we are accountable. All right, then, Joshua said, destroy the idols among you and turn your hearts to the Lord, the God of Israel. So see, that's why he was saying that y'all ain't sincere, because see, they still had idols among them. They still had their idols. They still was living the old way. They still had them gods that they had brought out of Egypt with them. Some people still had those gods they brought out of Egypt with them. So you're like, all right, if you're making this sincere decision to serve the Lord, then you need to get rid of. So number 20 is this. You have to decide to turn from your old ways so that you can practice the new ones. You got to get away. If you make the decision to live this life for the Lord, then there should be some changes. And when you really make the decision, you can't hang around the same people and do the same things as you were doing before you came to the Lord and expect to really get the Lord's blessings. There got to be a change there. That's one of the main things when I talk to the guys in jail. That's one of the main things I always told them. I said, it's easy to build that relationship with the Lord while you're in here. I said, but the true challenge is going to be when you get out of here. Are you going to continue on that path? Or are you going to go back to your hang with the same people, doing the same old things? And I always tell, I said, so, because if you do get back out there, hanging with the same people, doing the same old things, then guess what? You're going to end up right back in here. I was like, you got to be sincere. You got to make the decision. You can't, you know what I'm saying? That's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. That's insane. You know what I'm saying? So if you've been living in sin and doing several things with sinful people, and then you want to give your life to the Lord, then you got to leave those things behind. There's a lot of people that I don't hang out with that I used to hang out with. There's a lot of places that I don't no longer go that I used to go. There's a lot of things that I used to do that I don't do no more. Why? Because I made a sincere decision that I want to give my heart to the Lord. You see what I'm saying? And if once you make that decision, you got to be sincere with it. You know, you got to be sincere, and you got to start doing different things. You can't be around the same people. When you really get, like I said, when you really get into serving the Lord and you're sincere about it, like they said they were, then your world is going to change. You know what I'm saying? Because you're going to have to make changes in order to be that new person. You can't do the same thing, old things, be that same old person and expect to be able to be successful in this life or to be able to have a close relationship with the Lord. Because those things you was doing before is what was keeping you away from the Lord. So now you got to do these new things here. So now you can have that close relationship with the Lord. So you're going to have to be some change. That's why, Paul talks about, taking off the old man and becoming the new man. You know what I'm saying? I'm the same old John, but my intentions are different. You know what I'm saying? The things I spend my time doing are different. The people I spend my time with are different. It's not the same. I'm the same John. I'm still the same John. And most people talk to me because, a lot of people, especially when they ain't talked to me in a while, they know I preach and stuff, they'll talk to me and I can tell you how many times, like, man, you the same old John. Yes, I am the same old John. But I do things different as well. I am different as well because, like I said, I don't go to places I used to go. I don't hang with all the people I used to hang with. I don't do all the things that I used to do. And it's not that I'm looking down on you because you still doing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not looking down on you because you still doing. They just not good for me no more because I want to practice these new things. You know what I'm saying? Instead of going out on Saturdays and getting drunk and watching football games, smoking weed, now I go out on Saturdays, I knock on doors. See, things are different. Because I want to be that new man that the Lord called me out to be. You see what I'm saying? Instead of going around, chasing girls, I'm here with my wife. You know what I'm saying? I'm faithful to my wife. Why? Because things are different. I want to be that new man. So there's going to be some changes. You're going to have to put off the old you to be the new you. And that's what he was saying. Y'all haven't even put off the old you yet. So how you going to do this new thing? How you going to be faithful to the Lord when y'all still hanging around, y'all still messing around with these idols, these false gods? You see what I'm saying? So that's what he was telling them. That's why he was saying, if you're really sincere, then put that stuff away. So that's why I tell people, if you're really sincere about having that close relationship with the Lord, you're really sincere, get away from that old stuff. That old stuff that you used to do, that you like to do, that you know you're not supposed to be doing, then you got to get away from that stuff. If you get away from that stuff, that'll show God that you're sincere, and you'll start seeing his blessings in your life. You'll see him working in your life. You'll be able to see all those things that he's doing, and you'll really experience the goodness of God. And there's so many people miss out on the goodness of God because they decide to serve the Lord, but they don't serve him wholeheartedly, and they don't truly get away from their old life and start living their new life. So they got some of the blessings of God, but they're not seeing the full effect because they haven't made that decision to fully get a heart to him and get away from those old things. You think about Peter, when Jesus called Peter and James and John. When James and John said James and John was in the boat with their father, fishing. And they weren't fishing because, oh man, it was a nice day. It was going to go out there a rod. And they was fishing. They was out there fishing because that was their profession. That's how they fed their family. But when Jesus called them, what did it say? It said they left the boat and their father behind. Why? Because that was the old life. The old life was us fishing for food and for money. This new life, we're going to be fishers of men for the kingdom of God. They left that stuff behind. So number 20, you have to decide to turn from your old ways so you can practice the new ones. And that's what Joshua was telling them. Again, he get ready to die. He's like, look, y'all saying y'all going to be committed to the Lord, but you still got idols among you. You got to get away from that stuff so you can practice the new ones. So number 20 was you have to decide to turn away from your old ways so you can practice the new ones. So then in 24, it said, the people said to Joshua, we will serve the Lord and we will obey him alone. So again, that should refer back to number 17, that you have to decide if you are only going to serve the Lord and the Lord alone. You know what I'm saying? That was number 17 that we went over. And they're saying they're going to do this. So then he said, all right, if that's the case, in verse 25, Joshua made a covenant. He said, so Joshua made a covenant with the people that day in Shechem, committing them to a permanent and binding contract between themselves and the Lord. So number 21, another decision you have to make. You have to decide if you're going to enter into a covenant with the Lord. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to make God a promise and you're going to live on it, you have to make that decision. You have to decide that. And if you decide that, then it's binding. He noticed it binding. In other words, the Lord is going to hold you to it. That's why I told y'all there's several times that I promised the Lord that I was going to stop smoking weed and I went back. So I know I'm going to have to answer for it. Not that I'm going to be punished for it, but I am going to have to, you remember you said this and you didn't do it? Yeah, my bad, God. I was just playing. I wasn't sincere as I thought I was. You know what I'm saying? You have to make those decisions. Be sincere about it. You know what I'm saying? I think about, if y'all heard my testimony, I made a covenant with the Lord that night when I gave God my life. And I told them, I said, Lord, from this moment on, wherever you want me to go, whatever you want me to do, my life is yours. You know what I'm saying? Wherever you want me to go, whatever you want me to do, my life is yours. You know what I'm saying? So I made a covenant with him. Hey, wherever you want me to go, whatever you want me to do, my life is yours. You know what I'm saying? And I made, I'm sorry, y'all, somebody trying to call me, and I'm right in the middle of preaching. And I told her, I said, whatever you want me to go, whatever you want me to do, my life is yours. I told the Lord that. And because I told the Lord that, when he said, you got to go to Waverly, guess what? I had to bring me but to Waverly. You know what I'm saying? And again, I love Waverly. I love the way it worked out. But that's not how I saw when I first had to come here. I was just like, man, that's the last possible place I want to move. I'm not a country boy. I'm a city boy. And there's no way I'm going to go and be successful in this town and do it. But I was. You know what I'm saying? I was sadly mistaken. And I just thank the Lord for giving me the wisdom to follow his will. You know what I'm saying? Follow his will. And I'm glad I did. And you know what I'm saying? I held up to the covenant that I made with the Lord. When I made the covenant to the Lord that I would go to Waverly, I am, because my ministry has grown because of it. There's so many people that I met that I never would have met had I not came here. As a matter of fact, I soul winning that I've done. So far, I've been here. I've been in Waverly almost 8 years. January the 6th will make 8 years. I've been soul winning for almost 5 years, and I've led over 430 people to the Lord. Some I had never done before I came here. You see what I'm saying? So it's so important to do that. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why, like I said, the reason why I landed here, because I made a covenant with the Lord. I told the Lord that, you know, wherever you want me to go, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. I never imagined he'd put me in the middle of the woods, you know what I'm saying, over here by a wildlife refuge and deers and snakes and stuff everywhere, knowing I'm scared of all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And it's so weird because I can live in Memphis and be around thugs and crackheads all day. It don't bother me. But I get in the woods around deer and all that stuff, and I'm definitely afraid. You know what I'm saying? But this was I told the Lord I'd do it. And I made that covenant with him that morning when I gave my life to him. So when he told me I had to move to Waverly, I moved to Waverly, because I had entered that covenant. So you have to decide whether you're going to enter a covenant with the Lord. And if you make that decision, then you got to be sincere about it. If you say, Lord, I promise you I'm going to read my Bible every day, you need to be reading your Bible every day. You know what I'm saying? Because he's going to hold you. If you enter that covenant, you make that promise to him, he's going to hold you accountable for that. If you say, Lord, I'm going to go out soul winning anytime I get a chance, then you need to be out soul winning every time you get a chance. That's why I go knock on doors every Saturday. Every once in a while, something happen and I can't get out. But for the most part, every Saturday I'm out there knocking on doors, because this is something I told the Lord that I would do. Sir, I will dedicate my Saturdays to going out and telling people about him. You know what I'm saying? Once you make that covenant with the Lord, then he's going to hold you responsible for it. And that's what Josh was telling them. All right. He put it, now I gave y'all the way out, because he told them, like, man, no, I don't think y'all can be faithful. You know what I'm saying? Y'all too wishy-washy. Y'all don't think you can be faithful. You know what I'm saying? Y'all can't serve the Lord because the Lord is jealous God. And then, no, we seen how God done for us. We're going to serve the Lord. He said, you sure about that? Because you're going to be responsible. They said, no, we're fine with being responsible. He said, all right. So they entered that covenant. So now the Lord going to hold them accountable for it. And like I said, we're going to get in the book, starting the book of Judges last week, and we're going to see what's going to happen, because they're going to eventually they're going to break their covenant. You know what I'm saying? After a couple of generations down the road, they're going to break their covenant, and they're going to start back serving those old gods, and they're going to play dealer for it because they broke their covenant. So number 21, you have to decide if you're going to enter into a covenant with the Lord, and make sure you're sincere when you make that decision, because you will be held accountable for it. So then in verse 26, he says, so Joshua recorded these things in the book of the law of God as a reminder of their agreement. And he took a huge stone and rolled it beneath the oak tree beside the tabernacle of the Lord. And in verse 27, he said, Joshua said to all the people, this stone has heard everything the Lord said to us, and it will be a witness to testify against you if you go back on your word to God. You know what I'm saying? So number 22 is this. You have to remind yourself. That's another decision. You have to decide to remind yourself to act on the decisions that you have made. You know what I'm saying? Of course, we've been going, this is the 24 decisions, end up being 23 decisions all together throughout this lesson. So if you make these decisions to have that close relationship with God, you got to remind yourself that you're going to act on those decisions. And that's something I have to do all the time, because y'all can understand, again, I'm from North Memphis, you know what I'm saying? We're all about being aggressive and being gangster and all that. That's what I was raised around. So now I'm in the points where I have to be meek and I have to be humble. And I get people that try me all the time. And the North Memphis in me want to punch them in the face or do something bad to them and get that fleshly gratification. But I have to remind myself, you're serving the Lord now. You can't give until you promise God that you're going to leave that life behind. You promise God that you weren't going to do those things no more. So now you got to bite that tongue. You see what I'm saying? Because you promised God you would. I have to remind myself. Sometimes I get into my flesh, man. I'm telling you, especially with the guys I work with, they'll push you. You know what I'm saying? We got this one guy there. That's what he does. He enjoys pushing people to their limit, see if he can get them to do stuff that they know they're not supposed to be doing. That's what he does. And I have to remind myself, like, you know what? You know, that I said I won't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, when I gave up marijuana 3 years ago, you know what I'm saying? I still have urges. Sometimes, like I was down in Miami, and I think Florida is like you can smoke it legally. Everywhere I went, it was no marijuana everywhere. And boy, I was telling like, well, I am on, you know, you try to rationalize like, oh, well, I am on vacation. And, you know what I'm saying? I am in Florida. You know, maybe, you know, it's legal and I should, but I had to remind myself like, no, I made a covenant with the Lord that I won't do this no more. I'm not going to do it. So you got to do that. You got to remind yourself. You know what I'm saying? When you want to go back and act on those old impulses and you want to give into that old way of living and the old things you used to do, you got to have something to remind yourself like, no, I said that I was going to do this and I'm going to stick with it. I made a sincere decision and I entered into this covenant with the Lord, so I'm going to do those things. I'm not going to go back to my old ways. And that's what Joshua was here. He said, all right, y'all made the decision. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to put this rock here. And I always find that weird because you see it several times where they take inanimate objects and they use them as witnesses. And you like, that's retarded. Like, what is this rock going to stand up and testify? But you got to understand, it can. You know, God can give those rocks the power to talk. Because you remember the devil told, he told Jesus, he said, if you're hungry, turn those rocks into bread. So, you know what I'm saying? And then also, there was a situation, I can't remember where it was, but they was talking, I think it was Jesus. It was Jesus talking to the Pharisees, if I'm not mistaken. They was arguing with the Pharisees as he usually did. And they were talking about, he said, you may say that you are children of Israel. He said, but guess what? God can make these rocks children of Israel. So you got to understand, God can bring that rock alive. He could bring that rock alive that testify. You remember, you know, they got that saying, if these walls can talk, well, guess what? God can make these walls talk. And God can tell them walls. You think you was hiding behind these walls, getting away with your little things that you were doing, you weren't supposed to be doing. And next thing you know, the walls come in and come, you remember you was in his secret room. What was he doing in that secret room? And all of a sudden the walls start snitching on you, busted. You know what I'm saying? So I always think that's funny when they take these inanimate objects and they make them, witnesses or whatever. Because we saw that when you read over the story of Jacob and his and Laban. You know what I'm saying? Jacob Laban, after they had a dinner, they put a rock and they said these pile of rocks is going to be a witness. They called it the witness pile. You know what I'm saying? And just like you said, actually, yes, he can make the rocks cry out. So they can, and even though they're inanimate object to us, to God, he can ask the rock, did he say this? Did he say that? You know what I'm saying? So Joshua put that rock there as a reminder of the decision they made. You know what I'm saying? And whenever I go out and I knock on doors and I give people and I lead somebody to the Lord, what I always do, and I did this when I was in the jail too, whatever tract that I gave them, that I used to go over the gospel with them, if they accept the Lord, what I do, I take that tract back and I'll sign it and I'll write the date on it, whatever date it was, if it was today or yesterday or whatever, I'll write a date on that tract. And I always get them there and I'm like, here, make sure you keep this so you can remember this decision that you made. So whenever the devil get to try to tempt you or make you doubt, you can pull that track out and look at it and remember on this day, I made a decision to trust the Lord Jesus Christ as my Savior. See, I always do the same thing, and we have to do that. When you make decisions that you're going to have a close relationship with the Lord, when you make the decisions that you're going to live for the Lord, then you need to have something to remind you of those decisions. You have to make sure you keep reminding yourself. Every day I have to tell myself, hey, I said I'm going to serve the Lord. I said I'm going to serve the Lord yesterday. I'm going to serve the Lord today as well. I got to keep reminding myself to do that. And that's what Joshua did. He put that rock up to remind them that, hey, don't forget this covenant you made. Now, of course, they're going to end up forgetting. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, they push the rock over, the rock got low or whatever, but as they go down generations, they're going to forget that covenant they made. And like I said, when we get into Judges, we're going to see why they're in the bad situation they're in because they got away from this covenant that they had made with the Lord. But you should have something to remind yourself of the decision that you made to serve the Lord. So that's number 22. You have to remind yourself to act on these decisions that you made. So when you want to get into the flesh, when you want to curse somebody out, or you want to go upside somebody's head, or you want to do those worldly things, you got to remember, which like I said, I do this all the time. I have to remember, can't go there, John. Can't do that no more. You got to serve the Lord. You got to be a representative of the Lord. You can't hit nobody unless your life is in danger. If you don't feel a threat, then you acting in your flesh, and that's not of God. And you said you're going to live for God. So it's hard. I'm telling you, it's not an easy thing to do, but it's what you should do if you want to have that close relationship with God. So then he said, after Joshua did all that, he talked to the people. He said, then Joshua sent the people away, each one to his own inheritance. So last paragraph, I'm almost done. I got 2 more points and I'm done. I'm a little bit over my time, but I want to go and finish this chapter up. And we're going to get into Judges next week. So in verse 29, it says, so soon after this, Joshua, son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, he died at the age of 110. They buried him in the land he had inherited at Timnath Sierra in the hill country of Ephraim, north of Mount Gaash. So number 23 is this. You have to decide if you want a long, prosperous life. That's a decision you got to do. You want a long, prosperous life, then guess what? Have a close relationship with the Lord, because that's the only thing that can guarantee it. The only thing that can guarantee you a long, prosperous life is a relationship with the Lord. You know, so you read over in Proverbs when it's talking about wisdom. It says wisdom will increase your life. It says wisdom will give you prosperity. It says wisdom will give you all these things. And what is wisdom? The beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord. That's the beginning of wisdom. So again, it all goes back to a close relationship with the Lord. So if you want to have that long, prosperous life, again, nothing is guaranteed. You know what I'm saying? As much as I serve the Lord, as much as I love the Lord, as close as I feel I am to the Lord, I can be out of here tomorrow. Nothing is guaranteed. But if I serve the Lord, I have a better chance than, you know what I'm saying? No, y'all know I've lost weight and all that stuff, and I lost about 95 pounds, and I've been working on myself over the years. And most people are like, oh, man, because you lost all that weight, it's going to extend your life. No, it don't. The only thing that extends my life is if God gives me a few more years. You know, y'all remember King Hezekiah? He was getting ready to die. You know, he was getting ready to die, and I can't believe which one was it? Isaiah. One of the prophets came to him and he told him, "Hey, get your house in order because you're about to die." You know, he was sick. He said, "Get your house in order. You're about to die." And Hezekiah, he rolled over and said, "You know what?" He said, "Lord, I just ask you to remember all I did for you." You know what I'm saying? Well, whatever you want to do is on you. He humbled himself. He didn't get all upset because he was about to die. And he said before the prophet even got out, the Lord told the prophet, "No, go back." He said, "Go tell him I'm going to give him another 15 years. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because he just put his faith and trust in the Lord. You know what I'm saying? Because he put his faith and trust in the Lord, he had a close enough relationship with the Lord to where when the Lord told him he was going to die, he didn't get all upset and bent out of shape. He just said, he just put it in God's hand because he had that close relationship. And because of that, the Lord extended his life another 15 years. So if you want a good, long, prosperous life, then you have to make sure you have a close. That's the only guarantee you can have one is having a close relationship with the Lord. Of course, like I said, nothing is guaranteed, but the only thing that you can do to have one, we do all these things. We try to work out and people have these surgeries and they get all these lotions and creams and they spend all this money trying to stay young forever and trying to live forever. But in reality, the only thing they can guarantee you live forever or live a long life is a close relationship with the Lord and the Lord's protection be on you to bless you with that life. But other than outside of that, there's nothing you can do on this earth. There's not an amount of money you can have. There's nothing you can do. I don't care how healthy you are. Nothing can guarantee that you're going to live a long life. How many athletes have you seen that has died on the football field or died? I remember it was one, I think it was a Jackie Jordan Kersey. I don't remember. But it was one track star. I mean, this lady was the epitome of health and she died at a track meet. You know what I'm saying? At the epitome of health. So you can just getting healthy and eating right and doing all this stuff. None of that stuff can guarantee you a good long life, but serving the Lord can. It'll give you a possibility. That's not guaranteed neither because we don't know what they're going to go. But the thing that gives you the greatest opportunity, I guess I should say, if you want to have the greatest opportunity to serve the Lord and have a good, long, prosperous life, is about having a close relationship with the Lord. And Joshua did that. Y'all remember when the 12 spies went in, him and Caleb was the only one that came back and gave a good report. You know what I'm saying? He was the one that led the Israelites in. He's the one that kept them in the face of God the whole time he was alive. You know, his whole generation, the whole time he was alive. And that's why he had that good, prosperous life. He died in 110. So you want to have the opportunity to have a good, long, prosperous life. Make sure you have a close relationship with the Lord. And then this next verse will be the last point, y'all. Then I'm finishing up. In verse 31, it says, "So Israel served the Lord throughout the lifetime of Joshua and the leaders who outlived him, those who had personally experienced all that the Lord had done for Israel." So number 24, the last decision you have to make sure you have a close relationship with the Lord, you have to decide to follow the right leaders. Because you notice it said they served the Lord throughout the lifetime of Joshua and those leaders that was with Joshua. So, and there's a reason why they say that. Because again, we're gonna go into Judges. We're gonna see after those Joshua and those leaders go down, pass on. When the new leaders rise up, they're gonna start following these new leaders, and these new leaders gonna lead them away from the Lord. So it's very important that you follow the right leaders. You know what I'm saying? You decide who have an influence in your life in this world. You know what I'm saying? Because people that come in your life, they're going to either have a good influence or they're going to have a bad influence. They're either going to lead you closer to the Lord and a better relationship with the Lord, or they're going to lead you away from the Lord. But that's a decision that you have to make. You got to make sure you follow the right leaders. You know what I'm saying? Make sure that the people you follow, man, look what everybody did. They was crying for Joe Biden. They was crying for Joe Biden. And this dude has been in the office for 10 months. And look how horrible this country has been in just the 10 months he's been in there. See, chose the wrong leaders because they were looking at the leaders for the wrong reasons. You know what I'm saying? Now, this is political stuff. So, again, no matter who's in the office, if they're not of God, then it's not going to work out either way it go. But I'm talking about the people that you let have an influence on your life, the people that you decide to follow, the people that they're going to determine what direction your life is going to go. You know what I'm saying? And you got to make sure that you're following godly people. Look at their relationship with the Lord. Are they doing the things that they're supposed to be doing for the Lord? Are they spending the time with the Lord they're supposed to be spending? Are they faithful to the Lord like they're supposed to be? If they are, then those are good people to follow. But if they ain't, you don't want to follow those people. Not that they're bad people, but there's not you want to follow because they're going to lead you away from the Lord instead of leading you to the Lord. So you got to make sure you have the right leaders in your life. And honestly, that's one of the main reasons why I got to where I was at. I always follow God. That's one of the thing that God blessed me with that helped me get out of North Memphis, out of my drug-infested neighborhood, my drug-infested family. The reason why I was able to make it out of there, because I always had the wisdom to follow the right people. God always put the right people in my life at the right time, and I always had the wisdom to follow those people. You know what I'm saying? And I can't explain it because, of course, it's of God, but that's what happened. I always followed the right people. I took the advice from the right people. I saw how they was living, and you know what I'm saying, the things that they were doing, and those things were good. Their life, for the most part, was good, so I followed those people. And the people that had the bad life and was always doing bad things, I didn't follow those people. And that's what helped me get to where I'm at. So but again, that's a decision you have to make. Are you going to follow the godly people, or are you going to follow the worldly people? If you follow the worldly people, you're going to have a worldly life. If you follow godly people, you're going to have a godly life. But you have to make the decision which one you're going to follow. And depending on the decision is going to determine whether you're going to have a close relationship with the Lord. And then just to finish the chapter out, and there's one more reference to finish it out. So then it says, the bones of Joseph, and I thought this was really neat. It said the bones of Joseph, which the Israelites had brought along with them when they left Egypt, were buried in Shechem, in the parcel of ground Jacob had brought from the sons of Hamor for 100 pieces of silver. This land was located in the territory allotted to the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh, the descendants of Joseph. Eliezer, son of Aaron, also died, and he was buried in the hill country of Ephraim, in the town of Gibeah, which had been given to his son Phinehas. So that's going to be a reference to number 14. Are you going to stand on the promises of God? You have to decide to stand on the promises of God. Well, what I mean by that? Well, you remember when Joseph died, he's told the Israelites, he said, look, God promised us that he was going to give us the land of Canaan. I know y'all in Egypt right now, but he promised us that he's going to give us the land of Canaan. So when he come and take y'all out of Egypt, take my bones with you. Now, this is the reason why I said that was so neat. That was 430 years ago. So it was 430 years later that they finally got out of the land of Egypt. Matter of fact, this was more like 470 years ago because they've already conquered the land. And remember, it was 430 years before they left Egypt. And then they spent another 40 years wandering in the desert. So this is like 470 years later, and they just burying his bones. But he told them that because Joseph believed in the promises of God. He stood on the promises of God, and he knew that one day that the Lord was going to bring the people back into the land of Canaan because he had promised them he was going to do it. So he told them that when the Lord take you out of this land, I don't care when it is, you take my bones with you. So they took his bone with him. I just thought that was so neat that 470, almost 500 years later, they finally buried Joseph in the land of Canaan. And Joseph told them to do that, made them promise that they won't do that because he stood on the promises of God. When God made him a promise that he was going to get the land of Canaan to his descendants, Joseph believed that promise. He stood on that promise, and he told them that he made that covenant with them for them to do that, and they did it. And I just thought that was so neat. So that's it, y'all. I went way longer than I wanted to, but I did want to finish up this lesson tonight. I really hope it helps you. I really hope it helps you see the importance of the decision you make. Like I said, you make decisions every day. And the decision that you make every day determine whether you're going to have a good, close relationship with the Lord or you're going to have a worldly relationship with the Lord. So it's so important. That's why I want to do this lesson. That's why I want to spend the time with it and really break it down and help y'all see how these decisions affect your life, but more importantly, how it affect your relationship with the Lord. So if you want to have a good, close relationship with the Lord, you got to make the right decision. It's some work you're going to have to do. You know what I'm saying? There's 3 things I do every day. You know what I'm saying? They've come up since we've been talking here and doing this lesson. I read my Bible every day. I pray every day, and I go look for opportunity to tell people about the Lord every single day. You know what I'm saying? I do that every single day. And because I do those things every day, it enhances my relationship that I have with the Lord. So if you want to do the same thing, you want to have a close relationship with the Lord, you have to make the decision that you're going to have a close relationship with the Lord, because it's not just going to happen. You have to make it happen. So I thank y'all for joining me. And of course, I got my instrument. What up, man? What up, Drake? My buddy Drake. Matter of fact, he's a prime example. He's one of my contractors that come in and do some work for me at the lab. And me and him always have a good conversation about the Lord, because I do what every time I meet somebody, I'm asking about the Lord. So I appreciate you being here, brother. I'm glad you're here tonight. I don't know if you caught the whole thing or not. If you didn't, I'll post it on the page here in a little bit. You can go back and watch the part that you missed, but it's kind of late. You might be getting ready to go to bed. But anyway, I thank you for being here. But of course, I got ending announcements, y'all, so I can get on out of here. I'm way over my time. If there's anything in particular, now next week, it look like my schedule-wise, unless I'm changing again, like it did this week, I'll be able to bring a message next Friday night. So it look like next Friday night at 7 o'clock. If y'all want to tune in, if anything changed, I'll let y'all know. And that's what happened this week, because one of my kids' games got canceled and they moved it to a Friday. So that's why I had to do my lesson tonight, Saturday. So, but for right now, it look like it'll be next Friday. And my game plan is to start in the book of Judges. And we're going to see how, even though the Israelites made these promises and they said they were sincere about it, we're going to see when we get in the book of Judges, they wasn't really as sincere as they said they was. So we're going to start looking at what happened when they're not sincere, when they make their covenant promise with the Lord, they're going to follow the Lord. But if there's anything else y'all want to talk about, or any topics I haven't covered already, please reach out to me and let me know. Inbox me. If there's some story in particular you want me to cover, let me know, and I will work that into my lesson plan. Because my lesson never set until honestly a few hours before I sit down and I put my lesson together. Keep sharing the videos, telling others about the videos as well, so this ministry can grow. And again, it's not more it's more that I just want to do my part to bring the word back to the Lord. That was what number 12 we talked about tonight. I just want to do my part, and me putting these videos out, doing these lessons, preparing these lessons for getting this word the way I am. That's me doing my part. So I would just want to continue to do my part and help people understand how to have a close relationship with the Lord. So continue to share the videos, tag people in the videos. I never make my stuff private. It's always public, because I want others to be able to see it. And of course, if you're not 100% sure about your salvation, and you want to make sure that when you go through that door called death, that you're able to see the Lord on the other side, please, please, please reach out to me. Don't let your pride keep you from doing so. Reach out to me, and I will schedule some time to talk to you about it. Or if you don't want to talk to me about it because I talk too much, I will help you find somebody else that'll go over that gospel with you and help you understand what you need to know so you can make the Lord your Savior. And also, if you need any kind of spiritual counseling, got something about the Bible you don't understand, or just want to talk about the Lord and what the Lord has for your life, reach out to me. I do spiritual counseling as well. And I will schedule, you reach out to me, inbox me, or let me know, and I will work some time in my schedule to spend some time and try to help you with whatever you have going on. And as always, y'all know, hopefully I'll be getting a new computer pretty soon. But for right now, you go to my YouTube page. I still got 20 or 30 of my old sermons on there. And hopefully I'll be getting my computer in. It should be here within the next couple of weeks. And I'll be able to go and start downloading my new stuff that I've been doing here lately. But for right now, there's plenty on there. Y'all know I talk a lot, so there's hours and hours on there that you can go ahead and watch. This is my YouTube channel. You can go there, God's Servant / Lost Sheep Ministry, put a space between each one, and it will take you to my channel. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pray and get out of here so y'all can get back and y'all can get into bed, because it's already kind of late. But I do thank y'all for joining me on a Saturday night. Again, I know y'all can be anywhere else, so it's a blessing to have y'all here with me. And I just pray that this lesson that we went over and this word that we got into will help you how they want to and make that sincere decision to have a close relationship with the Lord. So, dear Lord, Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this lesson, Lord. Thank you for putting this lesson on my heart a couple of weeks ago. I thank you for these faithful people that be here this late on a Saturday night. I know a lot of them got to get up tomorrow. Even me, myself, got to get up for church tomorrow. And got a lot of things to do. But they're here to hear your word, Lord. And I pray it's because they want to have that close relationship with you. And I pray because of what we went over tonight, this lesson that we went over, I gave them 24 things that they need to do to have that close relationship with you. So I pray that you would touch their heart if they're not doing these things that we've discussed, and give them the want to do those things. And if they are doing those things, I pray you just give them the faith to continue to do those things, Lord. But I pray you just continue to watch over us all, continue to watch over this ministry, continue to help it grow and prosper, reach out to the communities to change the hearts of men and capture the lost souls of men, Lord. I pray you be with all the members of this ministry, Lord, all the people that you give me responsibility for. I pray you give me the wisdom I need and the encouragement I need to keep going forward and being an influence in their lives so they may have the want to get a whole heart to serving you as I have. And just like Joshua told these people that they need to do as well so they can have that close relationship with you, Lord. We just ask you to watch over us all as we finish up this night. Keep us all safe. Help us get in the rest that we need so we can get up tomorrow and have another day of serving your purpose, your will, and honor and glorify your name. And just continue to use me, my family, and this ministry to do our part to bring this world back to you. I pray these words go out and ring out and touch the hearts of those that need to hear it. And I pray that they do their job of bringing people back to you and giving them the want to have that close relationship so they may honor and glorify your holy name. We love you so much. Thank you for this time. I ask you to watch over all your servants, watch over all your people, watch over all my people, and be with us so we can have a good, safe night and wake up in the morning ready to serve your purpose, your will once again in our lives. We love you and thank you for everything. And we say this prayer in your wonderful Son, Jesus' name. Amen. So again, I thank y'all for joining me. Drake, I thank you for coming in, man. That's a blessing to see you here, brother. I appreciate it. A lot of people say they're going to join in and they never do. So I appreciate you being here. And again, Tuesday night, Lost Sheep, we will be having our meeting. We'll be back on schedule. Well, not necessarily back on schedule, but we will have our normal meeting this Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. And next, God willing, next Friday at 7, I present a lesson. We're going to start in Judges, and we're going to start seeing what happens when people are not sincere about the decision they make with the Lord and they don't live by the covenant that they made. So thank y'all for joining me once again. Y'all get some sleep because I know it's late, and hopefully you'll be getting up and going to church tomorrow so you can praise the Lord. But until next time, I love you all. Remember to always watch your back and pray. Peace.